3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 67. And we've got no guest this week, it's just me and Dom. And we're going to be joined by Zoe Burn from UK Clubsport towards the latter part of the podcast. But we've got so much to catch up on. Obviously, the last few podcasts we've done have been sort of interview style, where we haven't really talked about what's happening, you know, in the world. So we've got plenty to get through. Also, we've had a few questions from our patrons and a few other things. But before we get going, we've got a sponsor back on board. It's starting to become a little bit of an incontango
in situation. The good old days, Chrissy. The good old days.
Yeah. But we've got the Burrows Motor Company is back on board. A local family-owned business. I like the fact they said local because that's very subjective to whoever's listening. But they've got sites in Rotherham, Barnsley, Doncaster, Sheffield, Worksop, and York, representing Toyota, Mazda, and Kia brands. Burrows Motor Company is large enough to help with any motoring requirement you should have, whilst remaining small enough to retain the family-friendly feel, with each team member working constantly to ensure they offer the best possible service to each customer, whether they've been coming for 10 years or it's their first visit. So whether you're looking for a new Toyota, Mazda, Kia, or wanting a nearly new or pre-loved and used vehicle of a different make and model, Burrows Motor Company is large enough to help with the perfect car for you. Our dedicated team are well known to many of our customers and are just a phone call away. Of course, once you drive away, the service doesn't end there. With great options to help you maintain your vehicle in tip-top condition, our fully manufacturer-trained technicians, body shop technicians, parts and service advisors, and our booking team are on hand with any inquiry. Just call in or contact your nearest Burrows site. And they're running a special offer for Chasing the Racing customers.
I would love to know how many they've actually sold. You know what I mean?
We're on a little bit of commission, so hopefully a few.
No. You'd be just like, nope, not one, lads, not one.
But they've running a special offer, £250 off when you reference Chasing the Racing podcast on any purchase, new or used vehicles. So £250. Cannot complain at that. But anyways, episode 67, Dom, we've had a tremendous week on the podcast for downloads.
Thank you to Joshua.
The Josh Brooks podcast has went down an absolute storm.
I'm not going to lie, mate. I thought, here we go. You know what I mean? I think this is 2.5 hours long. This is but we just got totally sucked into the moment massively. I think, it was just sitting there and just go, keep talking. It was a brilliant episode.
Yeah, and we've just on YouTube and on the audio. Our audio is we get a lot more views of people listening rather than watching as well. But
I have a face for radio, Chrissy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I'm built for audible.
The YouTube thing's really taken off, and we're only a few days after we've published it, but thousands and thousands of views and loads of positive comments. A lot of, I would say, the most sort of general comments that we're getting are the fact that people didn't really know Josh, what he was really talking about, the fact he's got this sort of reputation, but obviously we only see him when he's at work and he's really serious and he doesn't really get to relax and show his personality. So we've had loads of messages, and like I say, it went down great. It went down like a one-legged man doing the okey cokey.
Is that another one of your write-downs here, Chrissy? You're just trying to get these little jokes, and I love it, son. The smile on your face.
But I tell you what, mate, we've got loads to talk about.
Hold on, before we get into that side of things, let's talk about relative and what's in the news. So, being a teacher, have you ruined any students' futures with low grades and everything like that? What you been up to? Any futures you've single-handedly destroyed this week?
It's all gone. It's all over the place at the moment. But to be honest, I haven't actually been involved with anything.
Yeah, wash your hands of that. Well, there's another situation that we're going to talk about. COVID-19 still on the go. The Russians have somehow made a vaccine, only testing it on 200 people, including his daughter. And obviously, Putin's idea is pretty much she's had it, the coast is clear, and trying to sell it across the globe.
Yeah, I didn't.
There we go.
To be honest, I've been away in the van most of this week. I haven't really seen any news or anything. Just before we get going as well, I just want to say a quick thank you to a guy called Martin Edwards from Links Automotive Solutions. He got in touch with us on Facebook, and he's very kindly sent me and you a pack of it's for caravans, so cleaners and all that type of stuff. So
thank you very much.
Big thanks to him. Very generous. But first of all, before we get on talking about the racing, have you been up to much this week?
just the normal for me, Chrissy. It's actually going back to work and just keeping busy. But no, it's quite hard actually because we've just been that busy with racing. There's just been so much going on. I'm trying to think, where did we last leave off the conversation before the interviews? It's a bit like I've done the classic, you've done testing. Have we talked about Snetterton Endurance?
Yeah, so we did one at Snetterton Endurance, if you remember.
Yes, with the Ryan and
Paul Jordan.
Yeah, Princess there, Paul Jordan there. Yeah, so got him all sorted. So what else has been going on? I'm trying to think. That was the last thing we updated on.
So that was just before the first round of the British Superbikes.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So we'll go then we'll talk about Scarborough after. Yeah. So first round. For obviously the first round of the championship, it's a 6-round championship. We've got in Superstock, we've got 10 races across those 6 rounds. So it started at Donington National with a double header, and for those Donington Nationals, the full track, but instead of doing the foggy S's left right and going down to like the 2 hairpins for the last sector, instead you do right left. And if you look on Google Maps, it's virtually symmetrical. If you go left, right, or right, left, but it's a
Google Maps. Put it in your TomTom and go for a lap.
Yeah, it's
turn left.
the national circuit for me. It misses out the worst bit of the track, which is the 2 hairpins at the end.
I was about to say, which track do you prefer?
Yeah, the national for me is mega. You got all the fast flowing stuff, crane curves and up through Schwantz, and then for me the last two corners, you just like. Foggy S's is okay, but the 2 hairpins, first or second gear, and they're just, for me it's a little bit like maybe chicanes at the northwest. It's just one of those where they're not real.
It's just there. It just feels a bit numb, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
But great meeting. Obviously, we did the podcast with Josh on the Friday afternoon. Settled in, got the bike. We did a BSB test before, so we already had the settings for the bike. So it was just a case of get bedded in and free practice.
Oh, because at the Duke of Edinburgh award that you won.
Donington, Duke of Donington, and then we did free practice. I qualified 3rd front row. Race 1 was on the Saturday, and so got to the line
on your laptop there. Mm-hmm. Have you got the times from that qualifying? Because people that have listened to this who haven't really got watch BSB, they don't really look at the times of it. Now, your times, what time were you banging in for qualifying?
Did a 107.8.
107. So 107. So how close is the rest of the field in 107s?
Well, you see, there's not that much to Donington National. It's a small lap. Obviously, it's just over a minute. So a second at Donington National is huge. It's 2 seconds at Oulton Park. So. Yeah, the field. It's like when we used to race at Brands Indy. There would be you could be 3/10 off pole and you could be 20th. But that's
phenomenal, isn't it?
It is just really, really close. But in Superstock it was pretty tight. Got down into the 10. I think the lap record was set at a 107.6. So qualified 107.8, which I was reasonably happy with. But then later in the weekend, I did actually get down to 107.5. Broke the existing lap record, but other people did as well, so I don't hold it now. But anyway, so
who holds it now?
Tom Neve got it in the end.
All right.
So qualified on the front row, got to the grid to start the first race, and so obviously the start procedure is you do your warm-up lap, you sit on the grid, the starter, when everyone's ready and all the flags go in, the starter points to the lights and walks off. You put it in first gear and you're watching the red lights, and obviously you're waiting for the red lights to go out, and that means everyone's going to set off. So sat there, first gear, red lights come on. I'm in first gear, start revving the bike, and it's so tense. You're waiting for the lights to go out, and as I'm waiting for the lights to go out, my bike stalled. So the clutch was fully in at the time, but the bike jumped just stalled on the grid.
Because on that footage,
in that split second, obviously you're expecting the lights to go out at any second, and as soon as those lights go out, you've got 42 testosterone-filled, apart from Jenny Tinmouth, testosterone-filled males.
Just chuck that in there.
You're setting off, going for turn 1. Everyone's focusing on trying to overtake and speed and whatever. The last thing people are thinking about is dodging, stalled bikes. So at that moment in time, my heart just sank, and the only thing I could think of to do to raise awareness and to make sure that I didn't get ran over and my bike didn't get written off was to lay the bike down on the side and just jump and wave my hands.
You looked like an absolute prick. I'm not gonna look you off.
I'm not bothered what I look like,
No,
mate.
I don't blame you. Mate. When at first it just looked like you slipped the clutch. You know the footage.
Yeah.
Because I was there. That was after the interview that we did with Josh, and I'm thinking, oh man, I get to watch your race. Now the problem is the chain linked the whole bottom corner. Like, you know, the chain link fence, it was all boarded off.
Yeah, well, no spectators.
No spectators at all, but not even the families who have signed up and everything like that. You know, the minimum, COVID-19 restrictions, everything. They've boarded up the bottom fence. Now, I can understand why they've done that, you know what I mean, to stop people gathering, blah, 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 bullshit. But I tell you what, I was gutted because I was watching it on the telly. They did the first superbike race, which was phenomenal. We'll talk about that in a second. And I'm thinking, sitting there, champion, here comes the race, and then they just flicked at them three lads having the chat, Matt Robertson. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I had no idea all this was going on. But I tell you what, the footage, who sent, I got sent by a few people that got sent it over, and mate, you just jump forward and you so slowly put the bike down, and then your arms went up and you just ran off the track. Now, the ACU handbook, if you do stall, you're supposed to just raise one hand, but you did 100% the right thing instead of just stand there with an arm up, because you would have got mowed clean in half.
The start is by far the most dangerous part of the whole procession, and obviously you're all together. And I know people that have been killed off the start,
really?
Like disabled. Yeah, it's unbelievably dangerous. Within 2 seconds, the people at the back of the grid are up to 80, 90 miles an hour. You think of how heavy a bike is, and once one person hits and it sort of spreads out, then it's a mess. It's horrendous. And so like I said, the only thing I could think of is just lay the bike down and just jump around and try. And I've credit where credit's due with all the stewards and the marshals and whatever. The second that I laid that bike down, all like 10 rows of yellow flags came out,
and it was
the start was paused, and I managed to pick my bike up, pull the clutch in, and wheel it off the grid. Luckily, the marshals quickly checked my bike at the bottom of pit lane and allowed us back out to start the next warm-up lap. But I had to start from the back of the grid. I was worried that I was going to have to sit in pit lane for like another minute and then have to go from pit lane. That would have been, a big blow. But they allowed us to actually start at the back of the grid, which was by far the best solution for me.
What any remote damage to the bike? No, you did the right thing. Now, any other big teams listen to this. Chrissy Rouse is mechanically sympathetic because you gently put it down, but was anything moved? Was like the clip-on moved, foot peg moved, or anything like that? Mate,
the last two laps of the race, the foot peg came loose because I think that when it dropped it on the side, it must have just knocked it a bit.
How much does a bike weigh? That's a typical dumb stupid question. I know, but
170. I think the minimum weight's 174 kilograms
on a little alley peg. You know what I mean? That's done well, hasn't
Full
it?
tank of fuel as well. So
full tank of fuel, there you are.
But so anyway, joined the back of the grid, which was 42nd. It was a 22 lap race, and just had to work my way through. The first, obviously the first lap, the people at the back of the grid are obviously slower, so you make good progress initially, and then once you get into the top 20, you're talking about even in 20th place, you're talking about people who would win club racing. They're very, very competent riders. And the problem with Donington is it's so difficult to pass. There's no hairpins.
It is a very wide track though, isn't it?
There's only two corners which are second gear. So to pass, whether you're going into the old hairpin or McLean's, Coppice's blind, Craner curves, it's got to be like a lunge to get past people. So as I start getting,
and obviously speaking to other guests, you're actually very shy as a rider. You've never sat anyone up in your damn life, Chrissy.
Yeah, so it's not really my style.
So I've heard, but
But anyway, so got my way through, and there was a few, one or two crashes ahead and whatever, which probably helped us out. But I ended up getting up to 5th position. And considering starting from the back of the grid, there was races last year where I started from where I qualified and finished like 5th and 6th. So to get 5th from the back of the grid was damage limitations and the best possible solution, the best possible outcome after the palaver on the grid. So,
I'm not being funny, but you've just totally underrated what you achieved in that race. And the thing is, people remember who win races and everything like that. I know the story continues into the next race, but what everyone was talking about in that paddock, everyone was talking about, and even now they're still talking about it, Chrissy, is what you achieved from that one race. That is phenomenal. Like you say, this is the most competitive grid. It is, being the stock class, more rules, less theoretical. Yes, there's big money in it, but not as big as Superbike. What you achieved on, quite frankly, an equal playing field is phenomenal, mate, and outstanding. It was bloody outstanding, young'un.
It's obviously difficult because at that moment in time you've you know what it's like, you know.
I've never gone from 42nd to 5th on the grid.
But with bike racing, you sort of expect the unexpected.
Yes.
There's nothing ever goes the way you sort of you plan it or you expect it. So a massive sort of skill that you sort of learn from racing is how, you know, staying calm in like really high pressure, dangerous scenarios. You know, and in that scenario, you know, everything's running through your head. You know, you've just went through and you've just got to stay calm and just, you know, you've been what's the word? You've been dealt a hand. You've been dealt a, you know,
mate. You've
just got to do the best with what you can. So, like I said, I was really pleased with that result, and it was funny because after the weekend, I'm actually joint leader in the points with Tom Neve and Damon Rees. But it was funny because Tom Neve won the first race, and then the second race on the Sunday, he eventually had to do what I didn't, start from the back.
Why is that then?
He finished. I'll get onto it in a second. What was it? He missed the start, I think. So you get like a minute window to get out, and I think his team pushed him out like a little bit late, so he got paused at the bottom.
You're joking.
And had to start from the back. So, but before that, so Sunday's racing, the grid went from the fastest laps from the first race. Obviously, because I was working my way through the pack, my lap times weren't very strong in the race, so I was 7th on the grid, but obviously a lot better than 42nd.
Because Tim Neve got the fastest lap, didn't he? Tim, not Tom. It would have been Tim. I tell you what, actually watching the footage back, Tim Neve on the build base, he was absolutely howling out some lap times.
Yeah,
and it's phenomenal. It just for some reason it just didn't, you know, stringing that. I don't know. He was just consistently like every time they're like every other lap, it was like Tim Neve fastest, Tim Neve fastest, Tim Neve fastest. So no, he did a hell of a performance. Like
so, the first race on the Sunday was, I think it was something like 12 o'clock or whatever. We set off and we got a few laps in, and I think it was a water hose came off a guy called Shane Richardson's bike, and obviously the water started pissing everywhere all over the track, so they had to red flag the race, bring us into pit lane while they, you know, cleaned it up and what have you. We then restarted again, so it was like our second restart. We did, I think it was maybe a lap. So in that first one, I got up to 4th. So then the next restart, I started 4th. I got up to 2nd behind Tim Neve and red flagged again. And obviously, you don't know what happened because it's happened behind. But after coming in and watching the footage, it was actually who I think would have been one of my strongest championship competitors, Richard Cooper on the Bathens BMW. Was involved in a horrific accident. It was, watching the footage back, you know, it's a miracle that he's still here, to be honest.
He's still alive.
Yeah, it's really, really huge crash. It appeared that Danny Kent, I think he either missed a gear or...
He sat up, you could see it from a mile off, you know, Danny's sat up accidentally, had an issue.
He sort of sat up and looked down at his bike, and obviously first lap or second lap, Richard Cooper was right behind him, hits his bike, instantly comes flying off, but obviously he's lying in the track. Most riders luckily avoided him.
Skimmed his head.
My teammate Matt Truelove did an amazing job to avoid him first
for hitting his head. Then some lad ran over his leg.
I think Jordan Weaven clipped his ankles, and then Luke Hedger ran over his legs.
Yeah, wait, at that pace, like you say, about 40.
But the worst bit is his bike's cartwheeling up in the air, and it's difficult to see from the footage, but it appears his bike comes down and lands on him as well, which, you know, it's just when you think of how heavy the bike is. But I'm really pleased to see Richard isn't too badly injured. I think he broke his leg and his right leg, his left ankle, something like that. But there's news out there that he's recovering well and
Brilliant.
he's in good spirits. So
we dropped him a message from chasing the race, and then he's well, I know it was just like get well. So that generic crap that you just think, oh shit, you're in a bad way, and he'll be absolutely devastated because as you know, he definitely would have been a championship runner again with you, giving you a right good run and everything. But everyone, I make it sound like we've got a team of people here. But no, from everyone to chase the race. Obviously Richard Cooper listens to the show, and get well soon, mate. But I'm over the moon that you're still here, young, because my God, that was hellish.
So then, because we've already had 2 restarts and the championship need the TV things to be like lined up properly, we actually got postponed until the end of the day. So they cleaned all the thing up, and this was like sort of 12, 1 o'clock or something, and we got put back to nearly 6 o'clock at night.
Aye.
So it meant sort of waiting around all day. But a good chance to watch some racing.
I was over the moon because I was racing myself, pit bike racing. So I was like, well, look, I didn't know what was going on. But lucky for me, I got to see the last race from my phone. No commentator, just saw the timing screen. But by the time I got back in my van, I was down at Dover, pretty much hanging around with the surrender monkeys down there. And straight at it, and I put the screen on, there's you. And I'm going, go on, lad. But come on, let's talk through this second race, because that was hellish.
So I think I started 4th in the race, got a reasonably decent start. But like I said, Tom Neve, who was leading the championship at the time, he actually had to start from the back of the grid.
You know me, I interrupt everything. Now, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about it after the Superbike, but the Fireblade, mate, it's back. But anyway, you carry on with this one, then we'll jump on that.
Yeah, sure. So,
I'm learning, Chrissy, I'm learning.
Got away, it was actually Tim Neve, my old teammate, who was leading for the first, 3 or 4 laps. But I managed to pull a nice little move on him going into McLean's. And so I hit the front on, I think it was about lap 5. And obviously, I've got an onboard lap timer, so I know what lap times I'm doing.
That's built in with the BMW, isn't it?
And earlier in the day, I did a 107.5, which, like I said, was under the existing lap record. So went into the race, obviously, knowing that I had that sort of pace. And before I took the lead, the pace was, like sort of 108, mid 108, really. So when I hit the front, I thought to myself, well, I know I've done a 107.5 earlier in the day. Maybe not pushing that hard, but string some nice laps together. So I was running a sort of low 108 pace. I think I did like 108.1, 108.1, 108.1, 108.1. And every lap on my board just +0, +0. I could hear the bikes behind as well. Different noises. You can. The Aprilia's got like a really distinctive noise.
Lewis
Rollo, yeah.
He's Scottish, isn't he?
Yes.
Speaking of Kevin Watherby, I didn't know he was bloody Scottish. There you go. Them Scottish just seem to just bang out some really fast lads out of nowhere. Tell you who I'm gutted who's not racing anymore. Paul McClung. Absolutely good. He was a Northeast club rider, but no. Anyway, sorry. Yes, you were Rollo chasing you down and everything like that.
Yeah, and towards the end of the race, I led most laps, and towards the end of the race, it was actually Lewis that put a pass on us going into Redgate, but he was.
That's the first turn, isn't it?
Yeah,
I see.
As he went in, he just ran a little bit too deep, and I got him straight on the undercut straight back. And then it was Billy McConnell who was next. He did the same thing, carbon copy move. I think he originally got us going into the old hairpin, but again ran wide, and I got him back on the cutback. And then he tried the same move as Lewis going into turn 1, and same again. He just ran it in a little bit deep, and just there was enough of a gap just to get him back underneath.
He seemed to have woken up, didn't he? He was just, like at the beginning of the weekend, we're testing everything. He was just a little bit like,
well, the first race,
gaining his feet, and then he just came running after you. He came howling after you.
He was having issues, and in the first race, I think he finished like 16th or 17th or something. Then the next race, he keeps overtaking me for the lead. But it's just watch my board +0. I was just minimising risk, making no mistakes, and just hitting all my points. And then towards the end of the race, the last 2 laps, just pushed on a tiny little bit more, dropped down into the 107s, and it was just enough to bring home the win. And obviously after the day that we'd had, just the day before, and to start like new team, and just you know the crack, like it was a very last minute effort, and to sort of reward the team with a win that early in the season, I was really happy with. So mega. And as I found out after on the podium that Tom had actually had to start from the back. He finished 5th, the same as me, but it was a 14-lap race instead of a 22-lap race. So Tom came absolutely
howling
steaming
through there.
Broke the lap record, and I think he was only about 2 seconds behind me at the end, starting from the back. So really,
them little ginger lads are howling hot quick, aren't they? There you go.
The performance of the day, I would have to say, went to Tom that one. But we're both, got the same points. Damon Rees is joint leader as well. He's
and he's friends with Shane Richardson, who you mentioned before. These couple of New Zealand lads.
Really impressive. Really impressive performance actually. He's new to the country, new bike for him, and just to turn up and he's podium both race. Really impressive.
I'm not a grass Chrissy, but is he allowed in this country with COVID restrictions? Can we just get him out the way? You know what I mean? We're just one little crafty little phone call, we can get rid of him. Championship contender. I'm talking tactics, Chrissy. I'm sure he's a lovely lad as well, but let's get him deported.
But no, like I say, he was mega. I think he is a Kiwi, but I think he's been doing like Australian superbikes or American superbikes or something like that. But
yeah, because he's heavily supported by he's supported by Carl Cox. I don't know to what level, or anything like that. But no, is the Shane Richard, Hannah James. I think they're having a baby together.
Yes, she's pregnant. Yeah,
she's pregnant. There you go.
Hannah's pregnant with Shane.
Something's happened anyway. So she's got a bun in the oven, son. I don't know. No, so no, congratulations on that. We're spreading the love on Chase the Ring, spreading the love.
But aside from that, there was the sort of other notable sort of exceptions. Obviously, we've mentioned Cooper had the crash in the first race. Yeah. Who else was up there? Billy did really well. Missed the first race, but obviously strong performance in the second one. What were you going to say?
I was just about to say, let's jump into that subject. Like now, when you think Davy Todd hasn't had a huge amount of BSB experience, yes, he's done it and everything like that, and the lad can ride. It goes without saying, the lad can ride a bike. But when you think he's battling in the top 10, has he done stock 1000 before? I'm not even sure.
He's done a few races, but yeah,
not a great. He has with Pens last year. He's done the odd bit, but he wasn't nowhere near that level, to come like now. It just Davy's a hell of a pilot, absolutely hell of a pilot. But even Tom was struggling. Is that fair to say? Tom Neve was struggling for top 5s on the old Fireblade.
He had a strong year. He got a podium at Cadwell.
Yes,
but yeah,
that was it. Oh no, he was battling hard. But then you'd say, like you say, with the performance he did on the weekend, him and Davy Todd, and on that Fireblade, Honda. I don't know if Mr. Honda at the top of the food chain, shot, killed, blackmailed, but they have got that thing on the pipe, haven't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's funny because Tom's made me eat my words, because obviously when we had the Neve lads on the podcast, we mentioned the fact that they asked who I thought would win out of them two, and they were both very impressive at the first round, both like leading the race and whatever. But I was expecting Tim to have a bit of an advantage earlier on in the season because
of last year's bike.
Last year's championship winning bike, to be honest, I thought it was going to take Honda at least half a season to get the bike dialed in.
Yep.
And my goodness, I was wrong there. The bang straight out, not only in super stock but in super bikes as well.
But when even when you compare it against Worlds, like all the Worlds lads who are on them are complaining about too much power to put it down. And that's what they've been whinging at. So you're kind of looking around the Haslam side of things and going, well, they're not, like you just said, they're going to take a while to polish us out. Welcome to the BSB, when anything can happen and dreams come true. The Irwin brothers have delivered a phenomenal performance. And then Davy Todd and Tom Neve with the stock. It's brilliant. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely brilliant. I want to go buy a Fireblade. There you are. So, even Mick Shanley, who we had on the show, he was saying that just shy of 219 on the dyno stock. Mm-hmm. Now I know every dyno reads different and everything, but you think that's a lot of ponies in the stable from a stock machinery. Definitely. And then you've got the Honda capability of the handling. Thinking Honda are back, and for me that is so important. Like, a manufacturer of their level is back in the fight, and that's what the best thing about the BSB is. It brings that everyone back into a circle. Because let's be fair, everyone was going to go buy BMW Gen 4s. Mm-hmm. When they, after the Hickman, what Hickman was doing and everything at the roads, everyone goes bang, 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 let's go buy Gen 4s. You've hopped on yours.
They were 1, 2, 3 in the race on Sunday as well.
What, the Hondas?
No, Gen 4.
Gen 4. Oh, there you are. You see,
Yeah,
Sunday, you, Billy.
And Damon.
That's it. So it's all coming back into a fight now, isn't it? You think people, in my well, especially from my side of it, being a racer, it's more important about the manufacturer war. You know, you think now people are like sheep, especially in motorcycle racing. They're going, "What's the best bike?" And then they look at you lads at the front and going, I'll buy one of them. You know, that's a winning machinery. So to bring up, because it has been the Kawasaki BMW Cup for a long time. Let's face it. You know,
That's like benchmark models.
Of course it is. Get one of them or get one of them. The Yamahas,
Honda's
stock.
definitely joined that.
Of course it has. Of course it has. Which is phenomenal.
Also, I don't think on the Kawasaki front, obviously you've got Morello Racing and
Danny
CBD.
Ken had a very good run, mind. A very obviously bar that gear change with the instant, but that wasn't that's mechanical. That's not
Danny Ken was actually on pole for in qualifying. Really impressive lap time, and I've seen on I think it was the racing page that he actually got a Duff tyre for the first race.
Right.
So, and he still managed a third on that, and then unfortunately had a
huge crash. It was huge.
Big crash on the Sunday, but I definitely don't think we've seen the potential there. I think he'll be a lot stronger at
Without
the
a
next
doubt.
round and whatever, as he gets
good.
used to the bike and stuff.
But I tell you what, before we move away from stocks and let's talk about the Josh Brooks, Andrew Irwin, Glenn Irwin incident and everything like that, which people are dead excited about. But can I just say how proud I am of you? No, like, sorry, we've got Zoe. Okay, I'm going to grass her up here. We've got Zoe from UK Clubsport here, taking the piss in the corner. But anyway, you're going to have your moments, just winding there. No, but anyway, I'm having my Oscar-winning moment here, Zoe. There.
You've bladdered on in this month's column about your.
I no. But the thing is, the racing aside, you know, where you've gone from the back to the front, you know, you're turning chasing racing marketable. I'm very proud of you. But no, that to the side, like. What I found incredibly professional, and the only other word I can really use is sheer utter class from not just as a rider, as a human being. When you're the only person, and I may be wrong on this, and you know, I'm all about I've been wrong hundreds of times before, but you mentioned the late Ben Godfrey, you know, and you turned up, you got on the podium, and you mentioned Richard Cooper and Ben Godfrey. And what my proudest thing is, like, I know the face mask things and you've got to see doing the thing, but you weren't coming enough clear. No rider was, because you've got a face covering. You know, if I do that, it's a pile of crap. And you took your mask off, and from the heart, and it was really classy, mate. And I'm really proud of you that, because you're a bellend. I don't really get on with you. You know, you do me head in, but you know what? You're a lovely lad. You're a lovely man, son. You're a lovely man. But I'm really proud of you. Doesn't mean I like you. Let's move on. Right. So there you go. Very proud of you, son. Very proud of you.
I do appreciate that. Before we get on to we'll talk about like BSB World Superbikes, MotoGP and stuff. But beforehand, we'll talk about like what we've been up to. That same weekend, you were saying you were doing the mini bikes.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, well, you know, you're joint first with three other people. Move over, princess. I'm leading the 140 stock mini bike championship, right? So I'm out with it. It was a bit of a shock to the system, but I've talked about it many a time on this thing. Like British mini bikes, like Alan Lord, his whole family run it, and like Adam Ryan, who owns Pit Bike Spares, you know, he said, right, Dominic, I want you to come ride my bike and stuff like that. I became full factory pit bike wanker within 5 minutes. It was phenomenal. I've turned up. I drove all the way from doing the interview all the way down at like Dover. You know what I mean? I could see the Frenchmen on the far side. People crossing the channel. I was helping them out the boats, getting them scattered around the country. I was doing my bit for the country, Chrissy. But no, turned up at a track called Lyd, and it is so fast. I cannot describe how fast British mini bikes is. When you think, you know, your BSB lads can turn up and you struck, like Richard Cooper is getting his hands full and he's been riding the things for years. Kyle Ryde's been riding the things for years. And even he knows how fast the rest of the grid are. But no, went out and I did 6 racing a day. So in pit bike racing, you do all your racing on the Sunday. You do a qualifying, but you got the choice of a Saturday, like to do all the practice. I turned up. And the lads at Pit Bike Spares were phenomenal. You know, they've got 3 other riders. I got all the gear and sorted for my bike from them and everything. Went out, got a tow on, and like absolutely chomped it. Now, I'm going to be very honest, Chrissy. the two leading lads absolutely wrote each other off. So there's me. You've got to finish first. You first must finish, and I'm leading the championship. So I'm over the bloody moon with that, and I can't thank the lads there enough. I bought that thing in the winter, and all I've done is change the oil. It's a little Chinese bike, and it just keeps going and going and going. Like the other lads have got like fancy suspension, fancy brakes, fancy this. I bought that bike from Adam Ryan at Pit Bike Spares, pulled it out the van, and I just rode me bloody wheels off. Like, you're not even going through knee slides, you're going through boots. The lean angle's phenomenal on them PT tyres, PMT tyres. You could say that wrong and get in a lot of trouble, couldn't you? PMT tyres. And no, absolutely had a great time down there. And I'm also, you see, there you are. You just move over. I'm also leading the Classic Championship, where I'm racing down at Darley Moor this coming weekend with the Davies team on the 350 and the Yamaha, which we had a bit of bother with over the weekend. But the weekend just gone was the first road race back on the scene, son. Back down at Oliver's Mount, and you made a guest appearance on the Sunday, didn't you?
I was over at Oulton Park. I did a no limits endurance race on the Saturday,
and you had a special guest who wore one of our hats. Would you like
that? Yeah. We're actually down as Team Chasing the Racing. It was called Team Chasing the Racing by Co Performance. Yeah. So there was me, Josh Daly, and Ian Hutchinson, and we actually missed qualifying on the Friday because Piggy was working. So
see, the whole world revolves around that little hay bale, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Damn you, Piggy! Damn you!
So I picked Piggy up on the Friday night, drove over, and we just started from the back of the grid. I did the first stint.
You love this. What's all this about? You know what I mean? Make the job easier for yourself.
So back of the grid again, 43rd, I think this time it was, and got up to, I was second on after my first stint, and then we just held second for the full race. It was Bill Bass had a team there, Kyle Ryde and G-Cock. They won it quite comfortably, and then it was us, then quite a decent gap, and I think it was John Ingram's team was third. I'm getting the nod from Zoe. So
that's it. Our UK Clubsport representative there in the corner.
So, but yeah, mega. Obviously, we're going to be racing at Oulton Park. So my sort of main prerogative is to get the bike set up, make sure the gearing's right, that type of thing. So I was just running scrub tyres, but got down to reasonably happy with my lap times and very happy with where I sort of finished with the bike. Made a few adjustments to engine brake and a few electronic things. And all set up for when we go back there. But like I said, when I was there, you were actually at Scarborough. You did a Friday practice. How did that go?
Well, the sea fret came in, and it was just misty and horrible and claggy. It was just like we couldn't get going till like the 1 o'clock. So
did you feel like being back at the TT last year?
I was. Actually, funny enough, it was like that. And you think, no, this is not what the club need. You think, like every situation, every club just wants perfect Spanish weather, don't they, all the time? But what was brilliant about it was the actual calm nature in the paddock at that point. Because normally, in some ways, road racing can be a little harder than BSB. Like, you normally, at Oliver's Mount, traditionally, you get 5 laps, and that is your qualifying as well. And you think, if you get stuck behind someone, you don't get out behind the right person, you're stuffed. And that dictates the whole weekend. But being able to have the Friday, everyone was a lot calmer and thinking, all right, no problem. But they did so well. But you're coming up on the top of the mountain, like the mountain. If you've never been Oliver's Mount, it is properly carved in to a hill. It is so steep. So what we were getting at the bottom, you think, well, we can barely see, but at the top you could see next to nothing. But it's Marshall's, like Sean Dalton there, he's running the Marshall show, and he's got all the people absolutely on point with their training, but they need a flag to flag point. So you're constantly fighting that sea fret to try and make it a visible, clear sight for any danger. So having that, but we did eventually get out. But that total thing is what we joke about, is that mental rain. You know that? When you're racing, you just get that bit on your visor and you're going, oh no, is this greasy? Is it not? But the whole track was greasy, mind. So greasy. But sometimes the worst thing you can talk about in the paddock while riding is like, it's greasy, and it just gets programmed in your head a bit too much, and it was a bit of a battle of the brave at that situation, So I went out and in qualifying, and you be proud of me, Chrissy. Like, we've talked about, I need to I'm learning. I've learned so much since speaking to you. Just some little tips, and I was trying a few things and cocking up, and then we might but I've learned so much from this weekend, and I will improve massively. I've just put a load of pressure on myself there. There we go. No, but I am learning so many more skills, and I can develop on that. But what I'm absolutely over the moon with was my performance on the 600. Now, you know me, I like tearing myself down. So the counting team, like James Counting, Fran Counting, and Neil Martin, they put together a fantastic couple of bikes, and they were so open from the word go. Like, they had a super sport engine. I mean, I had a go at it around Cadwell. It was so quick. When you think, what was it like when you hopped on your BM? Mm-hmm. You think, you haven't been on a bike in ages, this thing feels so bloody quick, like bloody hell. Honestly, I hopped on that 600, and it was the quickest 600 I've ever sat on in my life. And I'm going, this thing, when you just get that smile going, we can do something with this. We can do something with it. But unfortunately, it dropped the valve and knocked the valve seat in the ZX6. So Paul Marley, if you are listening, God love you, he pulled out his stock spare motor and they put it on the dyno. It was only banging out 120 brake horsepower. And I'm thinking, oh God, But I went out, and Lee Johnson was behind us. And I'm going, oh, for God, what's going on here? Now, to be blunt, Lee wasn't pushed. Lee was seriously top talent. Well, he is, of course he is. He's British super sport front runner, TT winner, everything like that. And he did the wise thing. I think he was pushed, he never pushed someone, but I was out in front. He never passed us, but we just got through the traffic together, like me in front, and then we had one clear lap, and it was just like go like sting. And there's me thinking, bloody hell, I feel like we're hossing on here. I made an absolute cock up going into me a hairpin, and Lee passed us. I went, right, here we go, I'm going to learn a lot. Lee, the little dwarf, just went, yeah, I've had enough now. So he just rolled around with his hand on his hip, and I'm going, oh, come on, Lee, I want to learn how to ride a bike here. And Lee just pulled in after that, but shocked to my news, I qualified second behind Lee, but only by point something. And DC Racing's Mike Norbury, who is that lad, he's very lucky. I'll explain. Your eyebrows lit up on the Sunday there. He was an incredibly lucky lad. But he really enjoys that track. He just love him to bits. But once he gets that confidence on a bike, he's nigh on unstoppable. He really is. And he just needs to adapt into that. And he'll be a real threat. And he is around there. In those greasy conditions, he just smiles like a Cheshire cat. And he just pushes that little bit harder than everyone else. So, but no, absolutely great on that. But the Super Twin, we were like the satellite team to Simon Bleasdale and Jamie Coward. So Simon Bleasdale, he builds the motors for the Counting team. He also builds the engines for Ian Locker's team with James Hind and Ian Locker on their patents. Yep, he is like the twin master. He can really build them seriously quick bikes. But like I say, we were the satellite team. Jamie and Kevin Watt there, KTS Racing, they were swapping shocks, doing this, doing that, and Jamie was just boof, off you go and away. I beat him in one race, but I was a bit of a bridesmaid all weekend, to be fair, Chrissy. I couldn't catch Lee, didn't have the legs down the straights. Got seconds in that class. I was getting seconds in the Super Twin. It was just, on the older bike, the Counting bike, phenomenal bike. It really was hop on and go. It just felt at home immediately. James put years and years of development into those bikes, and it was just on go boof.
It's a hell. I know you say bridesmaid, but it's a hell of an achievement. Finish, runner up to Lee in the Super Sport on the bike you're on, and runner up to Jamie, and sort of the best you could have done really. And when you consider, there's 40, 30 lads on the grid, it's a brilliant achievement.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. But I tell you what though, Chrissy, and don't tell anyone. Just keep this between you and me. It's not like we're on a podcast or anything. But I did make a dick of myself though, massively.
When?
Saturday. Now, John Chapman, God love you, absolutely God love you, put an absolutely gorgeous 250 underneath me. Now, Colin Davies, who I'm racing for, Davies Motorsport, they got this thing absolutely singing on the pipe. It was absolutely immaculate paint job, new colour scheme. And everyone would agree with me, it was the best looking bike in the goddamn paddock, and it was phenomenal. And I went out and qualifying on that. Now, Colin says, look, we're not, we just want to see how the bike performs, just go out and do 3 laps. Now, you have to only do 3 laps minimum to qualify. And I think they extended them sessions into half an hour. So people were getting like 8-9 laps. Went out. I did 3 laps. I put it in second place, didn't I? In front of James Hind. Now, James Hind, who, by the way, he wants to come on the show. You know, he famously snubbed us off. He said, "No, we're having a little bit of crack." Very shy. You know, that he'll come out of his shell on that side of things. Especially if he comes on this show, we'll definitely get it out of him. But no, James Hind, he's been riding them for years. You know, he loves the bike. And I thought, I pulled up next to him on the grid and I went, I'm going to learn a hell of a lot. And to be honest, mate.
Who was quickest in that?
Reese right? It's RHY. Is that a spelling? Is that right?
Right.
Right, yeah. So he's been racing for years as well on the road scene, you know, seriously competent 2-stroke riders, you know, very competent riders in general. And I just went, and to be honest, I pulled up on that grid going, I'm out my depth here. Because I put them laps in on the seat of my pants, mate. You know, I went off down the straights. It was wheeling in every gear, hitting the brakes. The brakes were that good, and the bike was that light. I was endoing it in the corners, and like I was coming out of me a hairpin. I wasn't even slipping the clutch. I've never slipped the clutch before. Even when I rode, like my only 2-stroke experience was the TT, the Manx Grand Prix and the Classic TT. Jesus, this time last year. We should be there now. That is bloody upsetting. That really is upsetting. So a year ago, I was on a 2-stroke and I was coming out of the corner and I've never slipped a clutch before. And I got off into this race. Reese had a mechanical, so he never made the grid. It was me and James Hind. James Hind went off like a scalded cat, and I went, well, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, just try and get my head around new tyres and everything like that. Came up Mia. And I came into the bottom corner, went round the calf, everything coming down the mountain. I mean, I reeled him in like a bad smell, mate. I thought, wait, you've got the helmet on, the visor's down. It's just full on Bella N mode from there. You're thinking, I want this. You know, I'm thinking, I'm going to win this. I'm definitely going to win this. Now, so I've come out at the bottom of Farm Bends. It's a really steep uphill just before the home straight, but it's a really sharp right-handed. Now, all the other bikes go dead light. Now, on the 600 and the twin and even the classic bike, I was just keeping the throttle on instead of being negative throttle, you know, coming over the top, just to keep the bike settled and just to make it around the turn. Wait, on this little 2-stroke, and even speaking to John McGuinness after, and everyone has warned me about how 2-strokes bite, and until you get bitten, you don't learn. And sadly, I got an absolute portion, mate. So I've literally come over the crest of the hill. I'm not giving it big handfuls, just to creep the throttle on to keep the bike settled. But there's no static shag. There's no yeah. Oh God, my sexual past is coming out to haunt me there. Static shag. Sag, which means there's no play in it. So creeping the throttle on, I should have just rolled off, got over the little bump, and then cracked. So I've come over, and the back, mate, fully disconnected. I mean, just went wah. And high side, I've black and blue my arse, black and blue my leg. I didn't even hit my head. I've just gone straight over. Like Stephen Moore, one of my mates on the side of the hill, he said, Dominic, it was absolutely huge. But you don't remember. So anyway, I've gone into the side of the bank. Now, John Chapman, if you are listening to this, I'm so sorry. But by the grace of God, I'm so lucky. The bike could have been so much worse. It's unfortunately scuffed all the paint, but the bike didn't roll. So like when people who are listening to this, you know, if the bike makes one roll, the bike's nearly a write-off. You're talking screens, tanks, seat units, the lot. Lucky for me, the bike's gone down on one side, and all that damaged on it was obviously the paintwork. The fairings were still in one bit. It was a clip-on and a foot peg.
Happy days.
I was absolutely...
I've seen your leg, mind you. Are you sore?
Oh, God, mate, I'm as stiff as a bishop's dick. Honestly, it's not good, like. It's not good. You all right there, son? Alright, there you go. You don't get any more than after that. You can thank Stephen Moore for that one liner. There you go. So any religious people, I do apologise. It's all in the name of crack. So anyway, but so no, it's I definitely learned. I'm absolutely gutted we didn't get the bike back out, but we just didn't have time and everything. You're all right there, son. So went out, but that was on the Saturday morning, and then we just carried on racing. But my back and everything, and no, it was good. You know, adrenaline fixes everything, as you know, Chrissy. You've been riding with injuries before, like every other racer. So
when I came to watch, I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I actually got there at 3:00 in the morning. I had to drop my bike off in Lincolnshire after Oulton Park, then drive from Lincolnshire up to Scarborough. So I got there 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was a marshal a guy waiting for us at the bottom of the paddock. He didn't even know what time I was coming, so I don't know how long he was waiting for us, and escorted us up into the top field. Sorted us passes and everything. Really, really looked after us, and had a great day coming and spectating. Enjoyed the racing, and it was also really humbling and nice to meet so many Chasing the Racing fans, seeing caps.
Well, the 130 club, I had them. Like, they were all jammed in the top of me, hairpin, screaming me on. I was like, yeah, this is what it's about.
Okay.
But obviously, only 2,500 people. I think the club have done everyone involved in that. I think it's good that. No, they've done really well. They've done really well. They've got the 2,500 people that were turning people away at the gate, but it's good that road racing is back. And I think, especially this year, that is so important that Oliver's Mount is back up and running. And I just generally can't wait to get going again.
Quick shout outs for watching. Obviously, Dean Harrison was tremendous, especially on the classic superbike. Lee Johnson.
Another news flash. He wants to come on the show.
Oh, fantastic. Good.
There you are. Get a couple of beers down his neck. He's like, yeah, I'll come on the show. Because he didn't realise this was like a mobile thing. So we're going to have to go down there and pester him at work. And his engineering firm's going off like an absolute rocket, which is brilliant. So it keeps the wolves from the door on that.
Something, I'm just checking my phone for the name. When we were watching...
Captain Insano.
Captain Insano.
Oh, my God.
Ryan Whitehall. Are you familiar, Zoe? Ryan Whitehall rides at Thundersport 600. Anyways,
his bio is, I've just started following him. That's how impressive he was. He's wannabe road racer. Now, he was in the B race.
Come in, Zoe.
He was here we go. We're getting Zoe in. But he was a newcomer, but the way he was riding into this first corner. Now, Chrissy, you talk us through what you... Now, you've come up, I'm standing there watching everything like that. I went, Chrissy, you want to see this Captain Insano, man? He goes, oh, aye, there's Chrissy. Shoulders roll back, gone, yeah, I'm at British level. I'm currently the leading champion, Dominic. I kind of see me think, mate... What was he like? Your face turned over. It was like Christmas Day. It was phenomenal.
We were watching from the paddock, and it was the 600B race.
If he's riding like that, I do not understand how he was in the B race.
So we watched the first few people came through, and Dom was going, "Oh, you've got to watch this guy. You've got to watch this guy." So anyway, we're waiting for him, and then. As he came around the corner, he had a yellow novice. Was it a novice jacket? Flying about like a cape, and he's going, watch. And I was thinking, like, middle of the B race, like, I really wasn't expecting to see anything like impressive. Anyway, just drops it, hits the brakes, and I don't know if he was big engine braking or using back brake.
It was on an R6.
The bike, right, just locked sideways like Marquez, and then it came back into line, and then he just slung it back out and like skidded all the way down into the hairpin. It was unbelievable. It was so good to watch.
Dean Harrison, who uses no brake, he was on the Greenall, Angus Greenall's beautiful superbike, 750 there, right? So Dean Harrison goes into that corner. Now the road just kinks out at the 200-yard mark board, and Dean just drifts it all the way in. But there's no
photo, actually.
You've got that photo, and he just, I don't know how he does it. I'm not sure if he's clutching, going to, and then just relying fully on like that slipper clutch and just drifting it in. But my God, he got totally outshone by this lad here. It was absolutely how he held it. Everyone was like, the whole race was going on. You're thinking, all right, yeah, no bother. Like me mate Kevin Barsby, who probably won't listen to this because he's a total knacker, the blue steel. He was flying out in front of him. He was off and away, but this lad was. At the end of the day, we are an entertainment sport, as you know, Zoe. You're in the entertainment business yourself, and it's like here. This lad was phenomenal.
I tell you what, I'm just going to have to pause the interview and we'll carry on in just a second. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, it's just with Zoe joining the conversation. I had to stop it and then restart it to get it working. But yeah, it was. Can you hear?
Go on, Zoe. Stick it in your face there. Come on, two lads in a trailer. Stick it in your face. Come on.
We'll get that level sorted.
Just shout that a bit louder because the lady down the end of the street didn't hear.
Oh, that's grand. That's grand.
So, you weren't down at Scarborough, were you?
I wasn't. I was at home doing MotoGP.
Oh, fantastic. And speaking of MotoGP...
My good God.
They've actually had two races, I think, since the last one. So, obviously, there was... where were they before Austria? Was it...
Do you know what?
I only saw the first
Bruno.
round.
Bruno. So the last two weeks of MotoGP, if you said 2 weeks ago, if you said, right, pick the podium at both races, you would, Austria was a bit more predictable, but Jesus, Bruno was like, I seen the podium after the race and I was like, what the...
Go on then, talk about that. Typical Dominic, chasing the race in fashion resumes. I know nothing of what's going on.
Well, do you know Bruno in the Czech Republic?
Yes.
Big, fast, sweeping track.
Is that when Marquez snapped his arm? Different track.
No, that was weeks ago.
I'm
We've compacted
catching
a
up.
whole season into 4 months.
Fantastic.
That's last year's. You know,
Fantastic.
that's just last year's. Marquez isn't even.
So
He's not
Marquez is out at the
He's a
moment.
Teesside Marquez.
He tried coming back racing, and he had a titanium rod put in his arm. Honda have put a press release to say that he's bent the rod by like opening the French
a
doors or
window.
something. But I think he's
How big is that fridge door?
reading between the lines. I think he's been out on his motocross bike or whatever.
And bent his arm.
He's had other surgery or whatever, so he's out.
How
But
do you
anyway,
bend a titanium? Anyway,
going into Bruno, the podium ended up finishing with Brad Binder on the KTM getting his first race win. Was it Morbidelli and who was third?
I don't know.
How organised are we here? Look, we've got my notepads and like scratching things out and all sorts.
Zarco, yeah. So first talking point was the Zarco and Paul Espargaro. Zarco was given a long lap penalty after taking Paul Espargaro out. I tell you what, I'll get it up on the YouTube so we can analyse it. So but basically, there's a real long right hander. Paul Espargaro on the KTM is taking a late apex, so he sort of runs it out wide, and as he's out wide, Zarco creeps underneath him, and at the sort of towards the end of the curb, they come together, and it ends with Paul Espargaro just getting knocked clean off. Really, the organisers gave a long lap penalty.
I saw
It
that.
was brilliant, wasn't it?
Knee down, and literally perfect. How many people are going to be doing that now?
Beautiful.
It was class though.
Beautiful.
How many places did he lose there?
He didn't lose any places.
Didn't lose a single place.
That's how you do it.
Okay, so let's have a look. We'll get
I've
this.
lost my pen.
Do you want to borrow
Yeah,
mine?
I need to borrow your pen, dear. Here we go.
So get this on the big screen. So if you watch, can you see Paul Espargaro's out wide?
He's
and then
not
Zarco comes in and just knocks him clean off. It's one of those where obviously both riders are... So just a replay again from behind. So Paul Espargaro's coming in, Zarco's on a tighter line. Looks like he's turning more efficiently, better grip or whatever. And it depends what angle you look at it, but it knocked him clean off. I mean, just watching the onboard there, do you have a racing incident or what's your opinion? So this is on board from behind. I would say at this point you've got to say,
well, that's incredibly difficult. So both riders have made the turn at the same time. It's not like a rush move in, but
no.
He should have rolled. I don't know.
I've just paused it at the point at which Zarco hits Paul Espargaro, and you've got to say at that point, Paul Espargaro has no idea that Zarco's trying to overtake him. Zarco, however, has went in the corner behind him and knows that he's going to shut the door. He's going to shut the door. And really, Zarco can see Paul Espargaro shutting the door there, and
he should have rolled the throttle. He
rides clean into him. And for me, that's Zarco. That's Zarco's 100% to blame for that. And
I would agree. Looking at it, that's the first time I've seen it, and that is definitely.
We're going to get into a few issues, a few discussions here
about
about sort of penalties, and in general, I'm kind of I think it's best if the organisers don't have to get involved with issuing penalties, because for a few reasons. One of the main ones is you've got to be consistent, and as soon as you start penalising something like a racing incident, there's hundreds of racing incidents all through the field, all through the year, and it's very difficult to people make mistakes, but on the flip side of that, if you just keep saying racing incident, if there genuinely is a dangerous rider who's causing huge crashes, massive danger, big crash damage bills, you've got the organisers sort of have to play a role in issuing a deterrent. So it's a really difficult conversation.
Right, if we're talking about that, let's jump back a subject then. let's talk about the Josh Brooks and
knew
Irwin.
this.
Were you thinking? Is this
No,
where
no.
you were going with this?
Well,
'Cause
yeah,
like,
it's the discussion of these things. So, I mean, I've had a real good thing about this through the last
I
week.
tell you what. Before you say it, before I say it, let's get the outside opinion.
No.
No,
that's
I'm
it.
going. No. We're getting.
So I've had a real good thing about this, and I think you've got to start from the premise that the rider who's making the overtaking manoeuvre, so who's originally behind and who's trying to get in front,
Who's committing to it? Yeah.
it's their job, their responsibility to make sure that it's a safe pass, a safe manoeuvre.
Totally agree.
Now, for me, if you're overtaking somebody, at the point at which the person who's leading, they need to have an opportunity to
see
realise that there's a battle. So it's like, say, two people going to war, somebody challenges, the other person can either accept the challenge and take the risk,
Dueling, dear boy,
and
dueling.
go for the position on track, or they can retreat and follow. That's got to be like the way that it works.
Of course, that's
Now,
a safety thing. Like
if somebody's from behind, and the person in front has no idea that they're getting overtaken, and before they get a chance to adjust the line or do anything, they get knocked off, which I think this is a classic case.
of course it is. He has no idea.
That's got to be penalised.
Yes, I totally agree.
So let's go to BSB, and I'm hopefully, if you're watching this on YouTube on the Chase,
I don't think they would have seen that.
Well, I'll get my sister to add the videos in. So
hopefully
this
big shout out to your sister, by the way, who grafts her arse off on this. So thank you very much. There you go.
Brooks and what was it, Andy Owen.
Yeah.
So what about the?
Now hold on. Before we go down that route, now my biggest problem is the pictures. You know, when people release photos with the gaps and everything like that, a picture says 1,000 words, but you know the actual incident. You know what I mean? When people have screenshotted it off like Eurosport, right, and it looks like there wasn't contact, but there's certain different angles that look like there was contact, there was no contact. You know, it's people can.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I mean?
I think it's really disingenuous to look at one still picture
Exactly.
of Brooks.
That's my point.
Of Brooks crashing on the outside with Andy not touching him, and say Brooks was going to crash anyway, because that to me is just it's. You know, it's impossible. It's a really complicated incident to analyse. It's impossible to take a still picture and
analyse it from that.
Jump to a conclusion.
Totally agree.
So looking at, like I say, I'm sticking this on, but if you're listening to this, if you just go on YouTube and type in BSB 2020 Irwin and Brooks collide, causing a hideous fast crash. That's the video we're watching. So coming down the start-finish straight, obviously Brooks is head of the pack at the moment, followed by Andy Owen and Glenn on the Hondas, and then is that Jason O'Halloran behind. So Glenn's made a pass on, I presume, is this for the lead? So Glenn's leading Brooks, and then Andy Owen on the Honda.
No, it's not actually, because Bridewell was a fortnight up the road, wasn't
That's
it?
right, yeah, sorry, it was the last race. So Andy's having a look down the straight there, and looking to pass going into turn one. Brooks is late on the brakes and covers the line. Mid of the corner, they get picked up, and all weekend Andy's been getting fantastic drive down Hollywood. So Brooks is on what you would say the racing line is, and Andy's got really good drive on the inside, picks it up, changes gear, and we'll watch full speed there. And as he passes, clips the handlebars, and Brooks goes down. That's
was that contact?
We'll have a look. That's
in your opinion. No,
it's
an opinion. It's an opinion show. This, you know what I mean. Nothing's taken on gospel from chasing the race, and heaven knows.
So it's just showing Brooks getting up. Let's have a look. So
thank God he got up. Yeah.
Replay. So
that was
So Andy's picked the bike up here.
But from that angle, there is.
That's the thing. Like you say, it's like,
if you look before Andy makes contact, Josh is spinning the rear trying to get traction. It looks like Andy's getting better drive there, and therefore
he is to actually get that close. Andrew Irwin has had a better drive out the corner. You know what I mean? There's Andrew Irwin. It's like everything racing. He is. He's hungry for it, and you've got to be. You know, he wants to be British Championship. But if he had the drive out the corner, and you think he's got to take the chances he's going to give, but that.
If you watch it, it's really difficult to see if there's contact. It looks if you watch the Ducati, the way it bounces up and down, it certainly looks like there was contact.
You got a British Championship, like a British champion sliding on the floor. He doesn't just wobble the front, does he? This is the lad who
actually
fights.
spoke to Brooks afterwards, and he'd been to the hearing with where they give both sides of the story. Obviously, Andy on the TV interview afterwards said that it was just a racing incident. And he felt that like he was going up the inside. Josh knew he was there and didn't lift up. Or I think Andy actually said it was as if Josh turned into him. Watching it back, I think the key question has got to be, before Josh crashed, was he aware that Andy was coming on the inside? And from that point of view, if the answer is yes, Josh knew Andy was there but was just trying to defend his line, then it's got to be a racing incident.
Yes.
If Josh, however, had the first thing he knew about it was when the front end lifted and he crashed, that's just turfing somebody off in front of you. And if that was the rules, then it would be a very dangerous sport, and basically people would just be able to turf whoever's in front. It's like go-karting, where you can ram someone from behind and push them off.
Turning this into ice hockey rather than motorcycle racing, isn't it? You know what I mean? Just start turfing into people.
Now, the question is, do you think that... I spoke to Josh. Josh said he didn't know Andy was there, because he said, if I knew Andy was there, I'm not stupid. I would have known. I would have came off second best, and I would have lifted, and he would have went through and whatever.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with bike racing as well, it happens so fast.
There's only two people know.
Exactly.
There's only two people that'll ever know, and maybe it's Jason O'Halloran who's behind.
The thing with bike racing is it's so fast, and the reason why this whole thing of racing incidents comes in is because for somebody to pass somebody, obviously everyone's trying really hard and everyone's riding at such a good level. For somebody to make a pass,
that is such a split second to say.
Exactly.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It's instinctive decisions, and sometimes, like say if you're passing someone on the brakes, you actually decide to commit to a pass before you hit the brakes, so you're kind of committing and then dealing with the consequences after. With this pass, for me, like what I was saying, the person who's overtaken, it's their responsibility to make it a safe pass.
That's it.
Now, thinking of that, Andy's obviously aware that Josh is on the outside of him and coming up the inside.
He's going to turn into the turn.
Yeah,
without sounding stupid.
Where else was he going to go?
Go left.
Yeah, and obviously, Andy's wanting to. At the time he's leading the championship. He's wanting to follow his brother through and get another podium. You can understand him being hungry to get through, but was he?
Was he a bit keen at that exact moment?
Was that too aggressive?
Well,
and I think that's been one thing I've been really surprised at is, last year, when Andy took Scott out and a few other things, Andy got absolutely hammered on social media. Wherever you looked, it was, loads of comments. This incident is totally the opposite. Every comment I've seen on Facebook has been backing Andy and has been appalled with the BSB decision to give him points, which I was expecting more of a 50-50 balance. Now, it's a really difficult one to call, and I think you're gonna get
like Zoe just said. There's only two people that know that happened, and it's
now for one thing. I don't think Andy would
intentionally. Oh no, there's no intention behind it. Did
Andy intentionally get very close to Josh at a fast part of the track where there potentially could be a crash? I think he thought to himself. In Andy's mindset, I think he thought to himself, I'm coming through no matter what. And he probably expected to make contact with Josh and for Josh to sit it up and him to go through and take third and Josh be
rubbing his race.
Rubbing his race. And as it's happened, it's been actually
really fast.
I think he must have clipped his handlebar and it must have, sent the bike down. And luckily, nobody was seriously hurt. Now, going to the BSB decision, I personally think
what was that decision for people that don't know?
I think he was given either 3 or 6 points, which means he got disqualified from the race, so he got 0 points, even though he got a podium. And
Do you think that was too harsh?
And he has to start from the back of the grid at the next race. Now, obviously, I think if it was any other rider in the championship, I don't think maximum penalty would have been a long lap. Now, if you think of Taron, when Taron knocked Jason O'Halloran off, you would argue it was a similar sort of...
But that was it, but you're very much...
Taz got a 3-second penalty for that. Andy's been disqualified from the result and starting from the back of the grid.
Yeah, that's not...
Now,
but is that not because he's got history?
His reputation. You've got to look at the whole thing, right? Now, not just since Andy's been in Superbikes. I remember from Superstock 600 days, Andy started racing quite late on for like tarmac racing quite late on. Okay, so he had a lot of catching up to do. When you think of people like, like Kyle riding, Bradley Ray riding mini bikes from being, 6 or 7-year-old, and you think of all the experience gained. Andy started like mini twins when he was much older. Massive improvements every race. Got into Superstock 600, and you've got to say he's really hungry, really talented rider,
really talented,
and he's desperate to impress. Now,
of course he is. When you think about the family, the Irwin family, that's a hell of a mantle, and all the Irwins are absolutely awesome, brilliant people. That's a hell of a mantle.
From that, he's picked up a bit of a reputation, and there's been numerous occasions where he's been involved in racing incidents. Now, when there starts to become a pattern and there's a common denominator, the series organizer has a responsibility to it's a very dangerous sport. The series organizer's got a responsibility to as a duty of care for the competitors, and if there's one person that's making it unnecessarily much more dangerous than it needs to be, you've got to say that it's their job to step in to try and either calm that person down or adjust that behavior so that it's a dangerous sport at the end of the day. People can get seriously injured. They can get this fatal incidents. And the thing that BSB have got to be careful or got to be seen to be doing
is being proactive in any situation
to try and,
if that was Andrew Irwin or anyone else, you have to it's not the pick on Andy Irwin show. It's showing what the organisers need to do to keep the sport safe. That's it.
Now, last year, for example, the Scott Redden incident at Cadwell Park, where it came from miles behind. That straight away, Andy was
apologetic. He was straight on his feet
and said, a mistake's a mistake, which you've got to say fair play. And and for the rest of the season, I mean, I'm not sure where he picked up his other penalty points. To be fair.
What was the other one? There was another one. He took someone else out.
Well, he did
take
Scott out at the first round, but that was
somebody else.
That was a difficult one. But at the end of the day, I think from Stuart's position and BSB's position, I think they just need to look like they're doing something. But was that if you were just to see that one incident, you would have to say it was very similar to Polespark.
Yeah, of course it was.
Things.
That's the thing.
And Zarco got a long lap penalty. He didn't lose any positions, and he got a podium. Now, really,
it was a bit hot. That is, when you put it like that, it's far too harsh.
But
when you compare it against it, that's a problem. We're on this sticky grey area at the moment now with this, aren't we? So it's. Oh God, I
think we'll have to just wait and see what happens next.
Yeah, totally.
But the funny thing about it all is that when you're as old as me, you remember Josh Brooks had exactly the same when he first arrived.
Yeah,
I mean, I still know people still say, "Oh, Ball and Ball Brooks" is the name that still gets used, which is ridiculous.
The point is,
get that. Sorry, Josh. I don't mean that in a bad way.
We spoke to Josh on Friday before all this happened, and Josh was actually talking about the fact that when he first came over, he got given a suspended 2-race sort of ban, so that if he did anything, and after the suspended time period, he then made a mistake, and they banned him for two races, even though really, if you
saved his time.
If you think about it, the mistake he made, he was trying to get past Walker on a track that he just came to from another country. He got pushed on a bit of track that he'd not been on all weekend, which happens to have a massive lump in it, which lifted the rear wheel off, and he went in a little bit hot. It looks like a disaster when you look at it, but he took Simon Andrews out, and due to an oil leak, which
for the
everyone else
cases,
But when you actually go back and think about his actual mistake, yes, he made a mistake, but one small mistake, and he got absolutely hounded, 2 races off, all that type of stuff.
There are people who still hold it. I've heard people recently who still don't like him for that.
Well, I hope the last podcast, I think, it's done a really good job to show his actual personality and for people to make a more rounded judgment.
Well, like chasing the race, it's like second time round, isn't it? And I think because we've had Glenn Irwin on the show, and I tell you what, like it is great to see Glenn back as well. The whole Irwin, even Graham, he's still finding his feet in superbike class as well. I just think it's It's brilliant to have the Fireblades back. I think it's great to have the Irwins back.
So
I
what
just think
happens?
it's
Do we go Team Irwin? I mean, do you have to pick one?
I've got to say though, with Andy, it's from the Superbike series sort of point of view. Obviously, they don't want anybody to get hurt in the danger side. But on the flip side, in terms of engagement and people wanting to watch, it's entertaining.
It's been brilliant. Everyone's talking about it.
That's the best race I've seen in a few years.
Exactly.
In BSB, it's the best race I've seen in years.
Everyone's talking about them, and everyone like say the next race, Andy's in second or third. Everyone's watching, waiting to see what he's going to do. He's exciting. He's keen.
Oh, that's it.
And so on one side, and to be honest, I think he's going to get a lot more support out of this whole thing because I think people. BSB fans actually feel like he's been vilified more than what he should have been, and the ban that he's been given, or the back the race thing, is actually way too harsh. I think that's a general feeling amongst BSB
I totally
fans.
agree. I think the important thing to remember is that no one is hurt, thank God, but my God, it's made it entertaining. You know what I mean? Take away the good, the bad, and everything. It is just outright, because no one got hurt in that incident. It makes it full outright entertainment.
The thing was, when Andy was coming through, he kind of had to, like, when he wasn't riding the best bikes and stuff. He sort of had to do like really big moves to sort of push his way through and make a name for himself, which he obviously
hasn't.
Which he obviously has
any
done.
note hasn't.
But
really.
I feel now he's in a position where he's got the genuine pace to win races, to regularly be on the podium. He doesn't need to take really, really aggressive moves.
Well, that's the thing. He's got the right people around him, right team around him, and I think this, it's like you say, it's going to be interesting on the next one, isn't it? I think 3-4 rounds in, towards the back end of this championship, this is where we're going to see a real development in it, and I for one can't wait to get going on that. I really can't. It's going to be great. Absolutely great.
And the rest of the racing was mega. Obviously, we talked about the Hondas. They were absolutely superb over the weekend.
A quick shout out to Brad Perry.
Yes, he was.
On his first podium at Supersport,
Fabulous.
His dad building his own engines and everything on an older bike. DC Racing's Brad Perry, absolutely phenomenal. Brilliant result, mate.
What I liked about him was to see somebody, and this is quite contentious, somebody with a bit of a personality on the podium. I just thought he was great when he was getting interviewed.
I missed the interview.
He just came across as a
was
normal
bumbling
lad,
little
and he was
psychopath. He was
great.
brilliant.
And he was saying, I've watched this since the ginger bloke used to interview people, and I just thought it was just great because everyone's so,
Whatever happened to Tony Carter, by the way?
He went off. He does.
Oh, that guy.
He was the editor of something, like one of these
Is he
classic
still in the
race
industry?
and stuff. Yeah, he is.
It's just
I haven't seen
since
him
he
for
stopped working for
ages.
Eurosport, I've never seen him anywhere. But
and I don't mean it to sound awful, but I'm going to use this as a platform to say it. It gets pretty boring when you all just hold your helmets up and go.
The tyres are round and black.
And I just want to thank the team. Put a great bike on, and I know you need to do that, but it's not exciting to watch. So when someone comes on full of enthusiasm, it's great.
Brilliant.
It just.
Yeah,
that's it.
Now, just before I forget, I must say a big thank you over the weekend.
Okay, here we go. You're on point exactly.
No.
Pro Performance put a great bike underneath me.
Over the weekend, I was really desperate for. Do you know the BMWs have to add on weight? So there's a minimum weight of the bike. So we before the racing started, we had to add on like 4 kilos of weight, and I did an emergency trip down to our good friend, the machine shop.
I was about
Irish
to say
Bob.
yes, I.
Last minute called him up like really late on the night time. Drove down.
Irish Bob doesn't sleep anyway. We've met the man.
Really,
that man does, he's
massively
a night
helped us out. So yeah, big shout out to Irish Bob Machine Shop. But yeah, anyway. Racing was fabulous over the whole weekend. The Superbikes was amazing. Tommy Bridewell was phenomenal in the last race. Cleared the pack, but I think the big talking point was how impressive the Hondas were from the get-go.
The BSB paddock is delivered yet again on entertainment
Can I just say a little shout out to the new talent that we've seen coming through the Talent Cup as well? This Casey O'Gorman kid that's come up
Fabulous,
from
yeah.
Wow, what a kid he is.
Without a doubt.
Is he like
Frankie Bourne, didn't he?
Frank O'Byrne as well.
One of our locals, Durham lad. He's done fantastic.
Charlie
as well.
Farrer was doing. I know he's a little bit older than them, but he did a good job.
He's done a fantastic job.
He crashed.
Big crash down Craner though, didn't he?
The bike kept going. And it kept going and it kept going. Did you see it?
It's like that crash at MotoGP that's just been on. That could have been the end of Rossi.
Also, Gino Rea is started with a new team this year, the Bike Devil Kawasaki.
Mint team name.
Was supposed to be a Ducati, but they ended up going to Kawasaki last minute. And after the first round, he's actually left the team. Keith Farmer had a big injury, a shoulder injury, so Gino's replaced Keith at Bill Base.
I know.
And he's went to Bill Base, and Tom Ward, who was supposed to be my teammate, is actually filled in with
the guy who drinks tea with the Queen.
That's
with the lovely hair.
Oh yes,
He's
Tom.
got lovely hair.
He's an athlete.
Kyle Ryde was really impressive. Bill Base.
He was leading the race.
Fantastic. Got a stone in his radiator. So
is that what it was?
So you had to pull in on.
Kyle, gutted for you.
Out of like a podium contention, but he was great over the weekend. Taz McKenzie had a few big crashes at things. Taylor McKenzie's struggling with a leg injury, so to be honest, he's doing very well.
He's done unreal to get on that bike in the first place.
Exactly. So. Now obviously BMWs were absolutely flying in Superstock. Like I said, the top 3 in the Sunday's race were all BMWs, the new Gen 4s. However, in Superbikes, they had an absolute disaster. I think going through you've got the two.
They were. I was trying to remember.
You've got the 2 Cinetic riders. So you've got Bradley Ray and Taylor McKenzie. You've got the
one injury and one's
Hickman,
getting his feet.
Hickman and Olsen.
Hickman's been.
You've got Barbera and Luke Mossey on the OMG bikes.
Yeah.
You've got Joe Francis.
He was on the Gen 3 though.
No, Gen 4. He was on it last
on the
year
blue,
as well.
on the Lord.
Yeah. On the Lloyd one.
I thought it looked like the older bike.
So you've got all of those BMWs, and I think between them all, they had a couple of top 10s. I think, but they're really disappointing.
Very
for
disappointing
BMW.
show for BMs.
And it'll be interesting to see if they get that sorted. Because if you think. The Gen 4s had a full year development, and you see how the fruits of that are shown in Superstock. I've just jumped on that bike and it's amazing. But for some reason, they seem to be really struggling in Superbikes. I think a lot of them are having brake issues. I don't know what the cause is, but anyway, really struggling. But on that topic, OMG have turned up this year with they've got the 2 lorries for the racing.
The Allens have done a fantastic job with
2 more lorries with a massive gazebo between. It's the old Sean Muir World Superbike BMW Hospitality, and it looks amazing. Obviously sponsored by Rich Energy. It's called the Rich Club, and it really, really has lifted the profile of that team.
That product, yeah.
And
even though William Story's hanging around with the Mackhams, I don't know. I'm a little bit upset with that. I don't know he's getting involved with Sunderland.
William Story's put a bid in to buy Sunderland Football Club.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with the Mackhams.
Are you a Mackham?
Yes.
Get out my trailer. Get out my trailer. There you go. My God, here we go. The things you learn. The things I've gone
Look
off
at
you
that,
now.
all of these years I've just lured you in with false
snuck
sense
in
of
there. I
security.
see how it is.
And I've got to say, massive shout
Mackham,
while we're
dirty
talking, massive shout out to Rory Skinner as well, who was absolutely phenomenal in Supersport. Really cream of the crop this year in Supersport.
Can I just say, no, I'm going to say this because we've started covering supports in the magazine.
Yep.
And I've gone with the caption, winner, Rory Skinner. Anybody else that tries that, I did it first. Okay, thank you very much. That was all I wanted
but
to
no,
do.
like you say, he just absolutely... I think Brad will come out stronger in the next one. Brad Jones, isn't it, on the other Appleyard bike?
He'll not beat Rory Skinner.
You reckon?
But no.
Rory Skinner's on fire at
He's
the moment.
absolutely fantastic.
He is flying.
He's
just plug for the magazine, obviously. UK Clubsport. You can subscribe at ukclubsport.co.uk. You can get a yearly subscription, so the mag just drops through once a month, and great. All the club racing, bit of road racing, and now obviously the support classes for the BSB as well. So
and
great
some
job
Geordie
of that.
bloke, because we don't like the Geordies, do we?
No, you don't. Actually, this is a bit of a shock. Actually, a bit of a shock to the system.
We've got a bit. You're in actually. There's a picture of you on the podium in this
Fabulous.
new one. It's due out on Friday. You're in everywhere.
There's
a piece where
I'm like a rash, dear. I get everywhere.
In your column, I was laughing earlier. He's banging on about how much the Rouse family, they've done all of this. And
don't tell him this. Have you told him this already, by any chance?
No.
Oh, my God. Oh,
and I'm thinking to myself, you're just trying to secure yourself a dinner a week for the foreseeable. I'm not daft.
Karen is a wonderful woman. She's not a Mackham for a start. I'll tell you what, my mum's dad's actually he's a Sunderland supporter, so there we go.
Right, going on to MotoGP. Obviously, they were at the Austin Ring this weekend, which is historically a Ducati track, massive straight. Dovi's always amazing and came in as a favourite for the round.
He had a motocross incident before I know.
Yeah, he did his collarbone just before the season.
There we go.
But
Which was weeks ago. So
yeah.
there you go. You should be impressed. I've watched the period.
Is it still April in your world, Dom? Could I just ask?
I think it's still 2000 in my head. There you go. So
Anyway, so if you go on YouTube,
I'm trying to contribute to this podcast, people.
If
you know
you
what I
go-
mean? You're just tearing me down.
if you go YouTube and go terrifying MotoGP crash from every angle, and it's Austria GP 2020. So massive long straight coming in. We'll watch it at full speed first, and then we'll watch it in slow motion. So at the time,
If you're not, by the way, obviously our listeners, they've turned the laptop away from me now, so it's literally these two from. Jesus, web tracky.
It doesn't get any easier the many times you watch it. It doesn't.
so the two riders involved in the collision were Franco, the Morbidelli, and Zarco. And at the time, it was actually Zarco who was ahead, and Morbidelli was right in the slipstream. I don't know what speed they're doing there, but it's right at the end of a really long straight. So
that circuit's gonna have to get redesigned.
the big
after that.
the big talking point is obviously the fact that after the crash, the bikes then cartwheeled back over the track and literally skimmed
Here we go.
Maverick
This is the
Vinales.
full pace. So that's 300 kilometers an hour, 35-degree lean angle. Oh, sorry. This is so that was the corner, for example.
So this
we
is
are
on board with
Rossi. Holy, Chrissy actually just jumped there. And how many times have you watched this?
I know. It's,
So basically as the two Yamahas were coming through, the two bikes came cartwheeling.
Holy.
And obviously you think
crap.
of how heavy a motorcycle is. If that touches the head, so they're picking it up. Oh, it's difficult.
That is so unlucky. You know what I mean? That no one got that, because that would have been the end of someone.
Does any of you remember this happened to my old mate Carl Harris when he got smacked by a Rizla Suzuki at Thruxton in about 2000 and something? There is a video, and anybody that's listening will remember. I think it was Thruxton.
Yeah, but Carl Ballman Harris was the hardest man on the planet.
Must have been something like 07, 08 or something, and I don't know I can't even remember what he was on, but I do seem to remember he got smacked on the head by a
Jesus.
Rizla Suzuki.
Now, if you watch it, so this is on board from whoever's behind the incident. So I'll just rewind it a little bit. So they're coming down the straight here. You've got Zarco there, and you've got Morbidelli. It looks like Zarco's passing Morbidelli with the Ducati. So Zarco's on the left-hand side, passes him. He's aware that Morbidelli's on the right-hand side and hit the brakes. Obviously, Zarco's thinking to himself, there's a rider on my right, we're going into a right-hander, so
he's going to roll.
He's riding defensively and using more of the track than what anybody else would. So if you look at Zarco, obviously he wants to be on the left-hand side here, and he's breaking out. And when you look at where Zarco is when the incident takes place, that is nowhere near where any other rider is breaking into that corner. Zarco's went in there defensively, trying to stop Morbidelli coming on the inside. Obviously, he's not wanting to cause a crash, but he's way offline. And when you look at Morbidelli at that speed, it is impossible, absolutely impossible for Morbidelli to have avoided that, in my opinion. Look where Morbidelli is. Zarco brakes, and he's expecting to go left here, and he drifts right out. Oh,
There was nowhere.
Look how high he is.
If Morbidelli then goes further right, there's no way he can then get back on on the racing line for the next corner. For me, that's
okay, right.
Again, I know Zarco. It was Zarco's fault, the Polispargo thing, and he got a little penalty for it. For me,
I've just googled right. 303 kilometers. That's what it said on the onboard. Do you know what that is in miles an hour? That is 188 mile an hour for us English folk.
Unbelievable.
Imagine stepping out of a car.
Well, you know what that's like. Imagine the Northwest. Being pinned at the end
That's-
of that. Then somebody braking and drifting in front of you.
Well, that puts it in comparison. That is absolutely
It's terrifying. And the fact nobody was killed is an absolute miracle.
Godsend. Is a bloody godsend.
The two people involved in the incident, obviously, and also Rossi and Vinales. When you look at them pictures of the bike, Vinales took both of his hands off the handlebar and went over his...
That is the most emotive photograph I've seen in the whole history I've worked in motorcycle racing. I've kept it. I'm going to get it printed out. And I just kept sending it to people on Sunday nights, and I've never seen a photo. Vinales is doing this.
How's he done
that's
that
going to help
quick?
him.
And he's
you can
done that
see
so
the
quick
bike
instinctively.
coming down behind, and
unreal. It's one of those things. Do you know what I was saying
seen.
at the beginning of the podcast about bike racing teaches you how to
react
in situations. You cannot prepare for that. You just never ever. expect the unexpected.
You ever seen the film Dodgeball? If you can dodge a bike, you can dodge a ball. You know what I mean? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. No, there's a scene in that, right? That is exactly what this is, my
But
God.
again, you know, you've got... I think Rossi's actually being criticised because he's came out and he's criticised Zarco and said Zarco needs to have more respect for the other riders. For me, I think
we're talking about,
both incidents. Zarco with the Polo Spargo, he knew Polo Spargo was on the outside, and for me, the person that's going underneath somebody, at the very minimum, you've got to sit. As you're going underneath, if you're expecting contact, the very minimum you've got to do is lift your head and look where the person is, just out of respect. Because if you don't do that, you're basically saying, "I'm coming through no matter what, and I don't care about you."
But that's
in a dangerous sport like this,
it's so hard because like all we seem to have talked about is moves. If you know what I mean, like it's 3 different. Obviously, tarmac racing, 3 different classes, 3 different disciplines, whatever you want, and they're all doing the same thing at the moment. It just seems like everyone has the sport elevated that much higher that you have to do these moves.
Or has everybody forgotten how to race during this extended lockdown?
Is everyone just a bit? Is it like?
Has everyone just not forgotten how to race? But has everybody just
chomping it like because it's in a shorter timetable? Is everyone more wound up? I don't know. It's mad. I'll tell you what. You know when you're talking about defensive.
See, go on.
No, carry on. Go.
Seeing an accident like that makes me feel sick because as like Rossi and Viñales, there's nothing that you could do to protect yourself against that.
You're a passenger there.
He was centimeters away from dying, and if I was Valentino Rossi there and achieved what he'd achieved,
I would have retired that afternoon.
I would have came in and I would have said, watching a bike skim my nose like that at 40-odd-year-old.
Nah, bollocks to that. You know,
if Rossi had came in and said that, you know, that's my warning, and I'm happy to walk away from.
I know if Rossi did that, everyone would respect
totally
that. But
understand.
From his point of view, though, Chrissy, bike flies past your nose. Do you want to give up racing that you worked your whole life at?
Not me, but Chris
you see, no.
Yeah, but Chris is not 40-year-old.
No, but even bollocks. My dad, my biggest hero, right? He's 60. He's got a snapped femur. And he's sitting there watching motorcycles, and all he's going to do is get back on a motorcycle. My old man's seen considerably worse than that, and he still wants to get back on a motorbike. So you can't sit like I'm having a little pop shot of you, but you can't. He won't. Rossi would have gone home that night.
No, but what I'm saying is, I would totally understand if Rossi and
he said, "Look, I've had enough." I totally agree. But then other people I've seen that on social media going, "You should pack in, like bollocks to that."
Well,
so I'm not even a Rossi fan.
When he wants to,
fair play. He went and got 5th, didn't he? It's like, you know, it's incredible. That's like. To come back from that and not even be shook up.
It's unreal.
15 minutes later, finish 5th.
The rest of the race, obviously, it was Dovi that got the race win in the end.
The day after he'd told Ducati it was over.
Alex Rins.
That was brilliant.
Alex Rins was on for a real good result after a horrific injury to Reth just a few weeks ago. And is that your fault?
I have no idea.
Dom's friends.
Rins was could have been back on the podium, but little crash. Mia on the Suzuki podium, and obviously Jack Miller. But do you know when Dovi came in after the race? Did you see whoever his team boss thing is? And he was like cheering for him, and Dovi just gave him a stare, like
it's interesting, isn't it? Because
emotionless stare.
Didn't Lorenzo quit Ducati and then go out and win the next day, or get on pole the next day? It's like
something like that.
It's this bizarre sort of thing now, and now Dovi's done the same. And then there was the interview after the flag show, if you watch it online, and they says, "Oh, do you know, is there any chance that you're going to change your mind now?" And he just went, "No."
It would be interesting to see
where. They said, "You know, is this going to change things?" He went, "No."
Do you think it'll go KTM?
I don't know where he'll go.
I suppose that's all over money, isn't it?
That's all it can be, yeah.
Do you know, Dovi was on 8 million euros, and when Lorenzo was there, Lorenzo was on 16 million, so he was on double, and Dovi was totally outclassed Lorenzo, and
not always he didn't.
Lorenzo's biggest fan, but anyway, totally outclassed Lorenzo, and he was on half the salary, and then Ducati are wanting to half his salary now to 4 million, and he's just said, I think he agreed 6. He went with 6, and the want to go 4, and he's just said, stuff it.
I actually still think that Dovi's Mr. Consistency. Dovi will keep banging in the podiums, and I think he probably will he could win it this year quite
Oh,
easily. And I think
best
he's the
chance.
one. Yeah.
With Marquez being out, it's totally open.
Dovy's
obviously.
never going to go out and crash and do just crash or anything. He's going to keep banging in those thirds and fourths,
Mr.
and that's what's
Consistent.
going to. And I said
That's
that
what wins
right at the
championships.
start. Yeah.
And obviously, massive crash in Moto 2 as well. Did you see that?
I didn't actually see it because
Ah,
I
stick with it.
decided that I wasn't going to watch it. Only because I was
you
covering so
seen it,
much
Dom?
of the bike
Nah.
racing.
Let's see it.
Quickly show us that, because I tell you what, the one thing we have forgotten with our news thing is that we're going to talk about it after this, the diamond races.
The little gem.
The little gem, diamond in the rough. We'll have to get that talk, because the last two episodes
So is
will
that-
keep meaning to talk about it. But
The Isle of Wight.
the Isle of
Yes.
Wight
So I've
road
seen
races.
Steve Plater and James Hillier were doing a PR thing where they went around the track and road bikes and they're saying it looks amazing. Is that looking to go ahead for next year? or-
Next October.
Right. And what do you think? Do you think it will go ahead? Will you be racing
I
there?
tell you what, I really, really hope it goes ahead.
Mhm.
I really, really hope it. Now, road racing is struggling anyway with the insurances, and when you think about short circuits, you know, when's the last time a short circuit got built? They were trying to build one in Wales, weren't they?
Yeah, Circuit of Wales.
Circuit of Wales. They were trying to build one, so there's nothing being fresh. Even in road racing, there's been
Is that
no.
one in Northern Ireland as well? The World Superbike one.
They were trying with that. That's died on
forgot
its feet.
about
And
that.
exactly, that's it. No one's heard anything
That's when
from
there
it.
was with the Borders TT or whatever it was
Oh
going to
God,
be.
well, that was just a stupid idea. No, great idea in concept, but they were going to shut down the 68. There's 3 main roads into Scotland: the A1, the M6, and guess what? The 68. You think, are you desperate?
Hell of a road, mine.
Oh,
It'd
it's
be
a
great,
hell of a
wouldn't
road.
it?
But even so, you think the amount of roads that don't get used in Scotland, even the local shepherd only uses it a couple of times a year. You think you could put on an awesome race. But I think the Isle of Wight thing. Now, the thing that's going to make people skeptics is the sheer fact of, remember this Welsh road race that they're going to have time lapse. Now, they were taking membership, they were taking money left, right, and centre to get this off the going, and then suddenly it doesn't get approval. Where's the money gone? And you know what? That's kicked a lot of people in the face. And I totally understand. People, it felt like a scam. Now, I cannot sit here and say this is exactly what happened. Far from it. But from the outside looking in, until that gets cleared up, if someone's listening to this and knows the facts, brilliant. Come on the show. We'll have a proper chat about it. But it looked like a scam to me. It was going to be a time trial, like 2 riders off the go, no mass starts.
The Isle of Wight thing, are you talking
No,
about?
no, this is in Wales.
Oh,
Sorry,
the
at the
Wales
moment. But you see, you had the same people involved. So you had Gary Thompson involved, who is, a genuine, the hailed, in my opinion, the best clerk the course this country has ever delivered, in my opinion. And then you had Steve Plater involved as well. You're thinking these are very trustworthy lads. Now, let's put them to the side. They have been representatives of road racing, fantastic, but something went wrong, or something really bad's gone wrong as far as the scam's concerned, and that is my opinion on it at the moment, until someone changes my opinion on that.
So if it does go ahead, will you be there?
Without a doubt. Now, I think this is so important, so important. Now, we've gone from it was part of MOD base and everything, the Welsh thing. The Isle of Wight's involved here. This is a whole island. This is showing so much more promise. More importantly, they're not asking for money. You know what I mean? So there is no sign of a scam. Like,
Entry fee, do you mean?
This is the thing.
No. I meant, like, people, can you sign up for the membership? We need money to get this going. We need to get this going. There is no sign of that whatsoever.
There's not been any of that yet, has there?
Which is fantastic. Now, for me, that's brilliant, because you don't see the TT lot or the Manx Grand Prix asking for handouts here. The Manx Grand Prix is a club that hire the circuit off the government and everything like that to go, but they're not asking. There is support of schemes, but it's not publicised. So my immediate reaction to, is this potentially another scam, is eliminated, which is fantastic. You've got the correct man at the helm. You've got Gary Thompson, who's like running this. You've got we were having a chat in the kitchen. It was like ex-touring car champion.
Ex-touring car champion James Kay. I always get him mixed up with his brother Richard. It's James Kay. And it's all ex-Honda people, because Neil Tuxworth's involved.
There we go. There's another trustworthy man. You see what I mean? It's
James Kay drove a Honda, raced a
There we
Honda
are.
in British Touring Car Championships. And then Matt Neal, who is, he's probably one of the best touring car drivers we've had of this generation, whether people like it or not. He won countless independents and then came up running his own team, and then came up and he's won Honda Man again,
There we are.
But he loves motorcycle racing. I've seen him at the TT year after year, and I think he loves motorbikes more than he loves these touring
But
cars, really.
You know yourself, both of you, there is a huge financial segregation between motorcycle racing and cars. What cars spend is we're a drop in the ocean compared to what they spend. So you've got the right people at the right helm. And Steve
There
Plater,
isn't as much of this, for want of a better word, of bullshit either in car racing. There's not as much room for fake Welsh road races, whatever, you know.
Yes,
there's
aye.
Scams. I don't want to be saying anyone was a scam, but there's less room for that than there is in bike racing generally, in life, really. So
you've got the right people around the table, and I think what's important, and this is very much a man who lives up to your saying, you know, give what your teacher told you was like the fact of, if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. Steve Plater is quite frankly the busiest man in motorsport.
With the loudest laugh.
Well, yes, but that's it. But he is constantly working, running the tri-options, BSB, Northwest, TT, and you're thinking, he's involved. You're thinking, fantastic.
So if you know, it's due to go ahead in 2021, you know, if you had to say percentage-wise of how confident you think the event will happen in 2021, are you 50-50 or is it more 80?
Can I say, on a normal year, I would say I would be about 70%, but who knows where we're going to be with this?
I know nothing about it.
This pandemic.
100% agree. 100% agree with you. This is the biggest kick in the nuts at the moment. Now, the Ulster Grand Prix haven't got the confidence of what the diamond races have. The Ulster Grand Prix is just, we're hopefully going to be back. Right, brilliant. You know, where's the back? I want the backup. You know, everyone wants the Ulster Grand Prix back. Now, the important thing about the Ulster Grand Prix is, as far as international roads go, it's a three-headed dragon at the moment. At the moment, it's a three-headed dragon. Northwest, TT, Ulster Grand Prix. At the moment, we've lost one. And you're thinking this is becoming very, very dangerous. Now, if that never comes back, the diamond races needs to go. Now, the blunt side of it is we need the rock stars there. That is that. And would you not agree with that? You need the big names there to get it going. Now, like anything, getting anything off its feet, it's the financial package. Now, you've got professional lads wanting to turn up at a professional event, they'll want paid. That is, you know, take all the way the grease and all, you should be doing it for the love and all that. No, people like, well, you know,
all the
Pete
top,
Hickman, Dean Harrison, Lee Johnson, the top, you know, the top elite, you know, the money, you know, where the money, you think, you know, it's easy for me to say it, but I think what would be absolutely brilliant to get this to an international status straight off the bat is everyone to do it free for the first year. With the now, bearing in mind, with the understanding they're going to get paid the following. This is a test run. Like every bit, you can't just turn up and get bags of money and it falls on its face and people are going to be screaming, well, that's the end of road racing. But as a community, which we are such a limited, aren't we? We are like motorcycle in general is such a small dot on the map. We all need to club together to get this going. And my God, I don't know. But like we said earlier, we don't know. We just know this is going to happen. We don't know much on, but sometimes no news is good news. We're thinking they're not screaming, we need this, we need that. There's not.
At the minute, there's no sort of, because they're going to run, they said that they're going to run after BSB finishes. It's an October race, which is an interesting twist as well. So
at least it's further down, hotter down that part of the country.
What they've said was they'll announce the actual dates once the 2021 BSB calendar's out. So that'll be the next. They've got the
confidence to flex things around.
And they said it's the idea is everyone can leave BSB, leave Brands Hatch, I'm banging on the table, and go straight over to the Isle of Wight or what have you, and then they're looking at doing Wednesday to Saturday.
Okay.
So,
which I think I really want this to work. I really want this to work.
I do.
But it's quiet confidence with the diamond races at the moment.
Speaking of road racing, obviously there's been quite a lot of talk about Macau recently, because obviously the Macau have been putting pressure on the competitors to either say totally commit to going and doing the quarantine or not. Where you'll have a bit more information about it. Where's it at the moment?
At the moment, it was pretty much sign this bit of paper saying, look, you'll come over and you will quarantine by yourself for 14 days in a hotel. Now, the Macau government will pay for... Mate, I can't even stay in my shoes all day. Never mind a bleeding hotel. My God,
did you just reply with like a laughing gif?
No, but it's like we were just saying beforehand with the current situation. Me personally, I could not physically afford it. You know, that is the outright truth.
I don't think there'll be enough
14 days of it.
I don't think there would be enough tissue in Macau for Dom sat in his hotel room for 2 weeks.
I'd come out the other side with one massive right arm, let's face it, you know what I mean? There's only one English channel on there. I'd come out learning Chinese beautifully, you know what I mean? I'll be like playing Betfred from the other side of the road, like MGM Grand, put 50 on the but no, but like.
But it's a month, isn't it?
It's a month. It is a month.
Who can really, apart from your average man or your sort of racer, can you afford to take a month away from work?
No, I would lose my business.
Mm-hmm. So did you say you're not going?
Well, at the moment, no, I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to go. You know, I had a great like team lined up and everything like that. But I'm not going to announce anything yet because things may flex, things may change. I might do this. You know, it's not realistically, it's not that far off. You know, a lot's going to have to change very, very shortly, very, very quickly.
Basically, if they do the quarantine, it's not going to go ahead because nobody's going to go.
Well, I can't go. And speaking to the other lads,
yeah,
they've got families, they've got lives.
To a few people. There's no if the 14-day quarantines imposed, there's no way that's going ahead.
And that's either side as well. And,
yeah.
and bearing in mind, I would go if it was a TT. I'm not like, and what I mean by that is I was out every day for a week.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go out there for a week's riding, I would turn up and suck it up and cut trees on the other side of that to compensate. You know. But you're turning up on the other side of the world for 2.5 hours. The Macau Grand Prix is a fantastic event. It is a fantastic track. It's one of the world. It's a world-class event. But unfortunately, the only thing that is hampering this is the global pandemic.
I remember, I think I must have done something with you last year. It must have been a Macau preview or something, and you said I would never go anywhere for 12 days to do 2.5 hours riding if I didn't love the track. And that was the reality, wasn't it? You know, you were there anyway 12 days for 2.5 hours. And it didn't even get that last year, did you?
No, it didn't even get that. It just absolutely hammered it.
We're hammering on time, so we'll quick.
We are. Turning into pumpkins in a bit.
So massive crash in Moto 2. The bike's lying in the middle of the track.
Yeah, I've seen this.
And then everyone's avoiding it. Unfortunately, somebody blinds.
There has been some big stuff happening at the minute, but yet again, the other lad wasn't really moving a hell of a lot, was he? What's the word on him?
I'm not sure. I don't think there's anything serious.
He's clattered his head a fair bit.
Oh.
Jesus wept. It's been like because Aidan Robinson, you know, he wrote in one of your for an article for you at UK Clubsport at the race clinic. Mm-hmm. Now, what was that terminology he was using? He was saying, "Don't everyone." It was a cracking photo of Scott Campbell sliding down on his arse. What was that terminology?
I got a cracking text.
I bet you did. Scott,
I'm after you.
I bet. But no, he used a terminology. It's like something effect. He had a fancy word for it, but basically everyone going out, you know, so pent up and going out, and it does seem to be happening all over the place at the moment. But that is mental.
Also, the one thing we haven't mentioned at all is obviously there's been quite a lot of World Superbike racing. There were over at Jerez, which Scott Redden was immaculate, really dominated the weekend, and then shoes on the other foot at Port Mayo, Johnny Ray's sort of stronghold track.
It was just faultless,
and
wasn't it?
It was just unbelievable all weekend. Scott Redden had tested there, but he's never actually raced at Port Mayo. He came really good in the last race and a good second place. Loris Baz, Mick Shanley, shout out to them. 8-man team managed to get a World Superbike podium, which was tremendous. Great work by them lads. And unfortunately, Loris had a big crash in the final turn. Huge. I've raced there as well. It's one of the best corners going, but I would hate a crash there. Massive, but fast crash. But tremendous racing. Anything else to cover before we wrap things up? Obviously, I'm off to Snetterton this weekend, BSB round 2. I've got one race and really looking forward to it. I would say Snetterton's probably my worst track on the calendar this year, but I love racing there. I got my first ever race there. Love the track, and
I found it really. I know I've only been there like down there with what a hard place to learn. You know. Laps and laps and laps and hours and hours.
I tell you why it's a hard place to learn. A week ago, this one said, "I've never been to Snetterton before," and we said, "We saw you there last year, Dom."
Oh no, that was on the different. That was without the infield.
So
it's the 200 bit. Now, like you say though, I've totally forgot about that. I went for the one day with the Davies team on the ZX10, and it did nothing but rain. It chucked it down. So I did one day in the wet, but I tell you what, going into that infield.
It's quite technical, isn't
I was like, I just totally got I was on a different bike. The bike had a few problems, everything like that. And I'm going, what the hell am I doing here? It was a big eye opener.
I find really interesting is that you don't like snow. You say it's not one of your better rounds, and I
love the track.
I look at that as one of your better rounds because the best weekend we ever had I think with your racing was at Snet when you did
I've had my ups and downs.
You did that
but just-
Haribo wild card.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
you won,
like-
and then you were.
Yeah, I've had my ups and downs, but I would say it's probably my weakest track on the
So-
calendar this year.
So if you're winning round there, they're in for a big load of trouble if that's your weakest round. So there we go.
But yeah,
Fantastic.
really looking forward to the weekend. Have you got anything like? Obviously, you're here representing the club sport.
I
Have you
just
got
wanted
any...
to say, well, actually, there's nothing of any note to say. I just wanted to
Buy
pick
the
up Casey
magazine.
O'Gorman.
Buy the magazine. Buy
No,
the magazine.
we
buy
didn't
the
talk
magazine.
about Aberdare Parksworth as well. Which
Yeah,
is a
that's
shame.
the Welsh thing. Now, CRMC, I'm down there this weekend with Darley Moore, and they've scrubbed their Anglesey meeting.
This was it. Wales is still. Everybody else
They've
in
probably-
England and even Scotland are trying their best, but Wales, there's nothing.
Shut down.
Everything's
Oh,
getting cancelled. It's really quite sad,
I
isn't it?
know. One of my best friends, Eileen, who loves the show. Hello, Eileen. Good to hear from you the other day. Nice letter.
Tell you what, it's fabulous.
Oh no, she writes me letters.
Oh,
handwritten
that's
letters.
brilliant.
No, honestly, how classy. That is so classy. Eileen writes me letters.
I bet you've never had a letter before.
I
that, have
haven't.
you?
No, it smells of perfume and all sorts. It's like, it's getting arousing. This.
It's fabulous. It was
I
to
wish
be
someone
back.
would write me a letter.
It was great to be back at a race meeting with spectators at the weekend. Obviously, with BSB being classed as an elite sport, no spectators. It's just not the same. But obviously, pleased to be back racing. But I would love spectators to be back, and I really hope for the second half of the season, the relax the guys
Because they're not going to. Is that still standing at the moment? So you've
First
got
three, yeah.
first three, and if it doesn't go, Stuart Eggs has been very open about going. Look, we can't afford to do it. So that might be better. Pull your finger out on the weekend. Then,
So are
son.
you going to come and ruin any more club races as well in the meantime?
I think that's me done. I've done 2 of them no limits endurance now, and really enjoyed both of them.
Did you
but
do Thundersport as well?
Yes, did Thundersport,
Oh, yes, the
done
The
Duke
Duke of Edinburgh.
Duke of Edinburgh.
Duke of Edinburgh. And but yeah, no, it's been great to get on the bike and get the settings and get your base setting on the bike.
Right then. So it's all right, lads. You can start entering again.
Aye, that's it.
The
aye.
superstars aren't going to be there.
Well, I've just been off the phone with I've got a big shout out to say to the Davies Motorsport team. We had a bit of problem with a new Yamaha at Oliver's Mountain, obviously the 250 incident. But Collins at the moment he's signed me up to Mallory Thundersport, which
Excellent.
is the same time as Silverstone.
Right, a
Aye.
couple of weeks time.
Yeah, a couple of weeks time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting actually back out on it, like my own big bike.
Any chance of seeing you at the Battle of Britain?
That clashes with something as well.
This is the problem this year.
It's
isn't it?
so
It's-
tight. It seems to be
It's going to
happening.
be the
now.
only bike race at Croft, so.
That's it.
And I think it might be that weekend where everything's on. I hope it's not. There is a weekend like the 19th of September where everything's on that weekend.
Aye, it's just meant the times we're in.
I tell
Mental,
you
man.
what, just one thing that's just randomly came into my head, but I've got to mention it. When I was doing the Snetterton endurance race, there was a guy out there with one arm racing, and he was racing like really fast. And obviously, you're passing a lot of people on them endurance races. But I remember getting to him, and you think of how physical riding one of like 1,000cc motorcycle is at speed, and he was doing it with one arm, and I was just blown away. Like really cranked over, both knees down, and like what a inspiration that is. It was just unbelievable.
Well, in this month's magazine, which is out on Friday, you can read about a guy with one eye who's trying to race.
Oh, there
So
we are.
you can read that, and then there's some discussion for you for another.
Right, you see, an injury should never hold you back as a person.
Well,
So there you
this
go.
is
If you
it.
want to do something, go do it. There we go.
So before we wrap up, huge thanks to our sponsors, Burrows Motor Company. And if you're fancying a new or nearly new car, 250 quid off with Chasing the Racing. And big thanks to our patrons as normal. And
big thanks to 130 club members. We're just getting them all out there now. So
I tried to
I'll
join
put-
that on Facebook, and you didn't let us.
because
Just
you
put
haven't
that
you
up.
haven't handed out your cheddar yet.
Oh well.
Well, there you
Do
go.
you have
Hand
to
out the
register?
cheddar. Oh, you have to. It's a limited club, so our club members who have paid, to get me through the tyre and the fuel bill and stuff.
I was trying to write Chrissy's
you'll get
press
a-
release. I
you'll
thought
get a
I'll
hoodie.
check on here about the 130 Club with all these generous people. No, I didn't let you in.
Do you know what?
We have spaces left if you still want it. We've got plenty of spaces left if you still want to join.
I tell you
Not
one.
for Geordies.
Huh? Not for
for
Joe. That's
Maggins.
it. I'll get you a red jumper. There you are.
No, I tell you one.
Dirty Mackham.
One thing with the that first round, obviously we did 2 races, and obviously I had to buy a set of wets because of the I needed new wets on rims as well. So I ran scrubs in the first session, but I was up to 5 sets of tyres, and then because the race got re-ran, you were allowed to put new tyres on for the last one. So I ended up 6 sets of tyres in a race weekend. You think with the VAT on, they're like $3.15 a set. You think it's a hell of a lot of money just on on tyres.
Black hoops.
Now, I keep saying Nelly go, but I did put a post on our Patreon page asking for any questions for this podcast. We've had a few, and Ian Higginson travelled all over from Belfast to Oliver's Mount at the weekend. Was unreal just to see some bike racing again. Hope Dom is okay after his off. What a great event and will run. Absolutely no reason why spectators can't be allowed at BSB if there's anything to go by. Mark Reynolds, this should be a belter of a pod. The pair of you have stacks to talk about. Thank you, finally.
Pressure.
One question for Dom, I guess. The absolute hero of a bloke who was racing at Oliver's Mount at the weekend with only an open-faced helmet and gloves. Is there some special regulation that allows that? He was thrown down some cracking laps as well. He wasn't hanging about.
Bill Swallow.
Did you see him with this?
No, he does the TT like that. Bill Swallow.
He does the TT like that.
Oh, God, aye.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a proper bloke, that. Proper bloke. He's been racing like that for years, and no, the regulations are fine, chin straps there and everything. It's down to rider's choice. I saw a lad, right, my first Manx Grand Prix, and the lad hit a bird, right, at first. It looked like he hit a bird, and there was blood all over him, down his chest, on his bike and everything. The lad got a nosebleed. Old boy, 70 odd, and he got the biggest nosebleed, and it was just all over the place, which was absolutely mental, man. But no, hey, Mark, good to see you. Saw you in the corner at the hairpin. There was a bunch of lads proper screaming us on. It was a proper good laugh. But I tell you what,
I bet they were let into the Facebook page.
But, funny enough, because I handed over their money, Zoe. You know what I mean? They've joined the 130 Club, and I cannot thank them people enough. Like I say, there's spaces left, so if anyone wants to join, that is absolutely brilliant. Also, I've got to shout out to Robbie Sylvester. He was down there when I had an off. He has this laser machine that Aidan Robinson has one as well. He massively helped us on there. So, fantastic people. It's Sarah, filling me full of drugs and all sorts. So, I had a great bunch of people. I can't thank the Counting team enough. Can't thank the Davies team enough. Can't thank John Chapman enough. I just generally can't thank everyone enough, and it was absolutely brilliant.
He was ripping me before for thanking all my sponsors.
Shut up, Chrissy.
Julian,
You put a fantastic bike underneath you, Tom.
No, the bikes are crap. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Julian Rose was asking about the Isle of Wight, but obviously we've already talked about it. Kathy Jones-Parry asked me about the comparison between the BMW and the Kawasaki. Difficult to say because I've only been to a couple of tracks where they're the same.
So whiffed.
I'm continuing. And to be honest,
you
I do.
have raced a BMW before this.
Yeah, and I think all the manufacturers in Superstock, so sort of Aprilia, Suzuki, Kawasaki, BMW, and nobody's really pushed the Yamaha in Superstock, but I believe the Yamaha as well. I think all of them bikes are capable of winning. I think at the end of the day, they're all similar sort of power, and I think it's your job to get the best out of the suspension. All the suspension can do the same job.
It's just fine.
I would say right now, I would say I've been really impressed with the electronics on the BMW. I definitely feel the BMW electronics are stronger than the Kawasaki's, and I feel like I'm using that to my advantage. So I would say, as a comparison, I would say that's the biggest comparison. I've got a few. How Lucky Was Rossi by Mike Orton. We were talking about how to cope with that mentally. We've already said about it's so difficult, and you can see the white in Rossi's face. Mark Reynolds has said, "How far in the pod are we going to hear Dom's traditional shh as he opens a can of Red Bull?" I'm going to guess it as it's happening at 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Well,
hold on. Wait, you've been screwed on that one, Mark. You cheeky bugger. There you go.
It'd be interesting to hear about your endurance bike. Is prep versus the standard road? I'd purely do them endurance to get prepped for the super stock. So I'm trying things, getting my bikes. So
for race pace.
Yeah. So you just brim the tank full of fuel and
off you go.
Yeah. But in terms of setup, I'm trying to set my bike up for the thing. I'm not my main priority isn't to win the endurance race. It's to get the bike set up. But I presume if you were doing the endurance, you would maybe, especially if you were using the same bike, you would have to sort of compromise the setup between the different riders. Andy Wellborn said, "Just shoot the shit. It'll be hilarious. Hope to see you at Darley this weekend and Scarborough next month." Are you doing the Gold Cup?
Yes, I am.
And fantastic.
Very short answer there. I tell you what, Locker, right? He's won the most wins around there at 130. I know how he does it. He's just basically he's shot like I've beaten Jamie's beaten me and everything like that. But Locker, once he gets in front, we had like a 3-lap dash in the race. And me and Jamie were quicker than him, and like we were quicker. But once you, like Oliver's mount, if you just hold left, you've got it. He literally goes in, holds left, but Ian is such a good rider that he can just turn, fire. So we got in front and held
I
back.
could watch
And
him
you-
all day. He's
you
fantastic.
could, he is
It's great to
fantastic,
watch.
absolutely fantastic.
It was great to see him and James on both on the
Yeah.
patch as teammates. And
What
it was like the master and their apprentice,
Yeah.
and he was
Totally.
showing them the lines, and then Hein got through and then pissed off. But it was great to see them together on track.
You
Amazing.
could see James Hind. You can see where all that, like we say, we've discussed him on the pod. I've actually got to meet him a little bit now. Fantastic, lovely lad.
He gave
really
me an
is.
interview, no bother.
Because you're charming, you got tits. You get these things when you're like that. So you go. But no, absolutely fantastic lad. He learned the place.
He's going to be a star.
Of course he is. Of course he is. And but no, it was fantastic. Jamie Coward did well done. All the riders. I
Jamie
think it
Coward was at
fantastic-
the Free Tech actually.
Yeah, there we are. He
Yeah,
won that as well. So
Final question from Sniff and Skid Marks, who's helped us both out.
William Hintz.
This year. He said he was gutted to miss Scarborough with work. Cheddar question. As a few on here do a bit of sponsoring you guys and also other privateers, what are the costs with roads and BSB related to a weekend and a season? How much for the general privateer as a percentage comes from sponsorship from small companies, individuals, and how do you make up the rest of it to be able to pull it off? In factory professional teams, are all of the costs generally handled by the main corporate sponsor like Massingbird Monday or BWise, etc.? So obviously we can speak for ourselves, but for other teams, like the big ones, you would have, like say Paul Bird's team would get a big sponsor who would maybe cover a large cost, and then a lot of the team owners put in a lot of their own money to run things. In terms of, I can speak for Superstock, say running yourself as a privateer in Superstock, you can on a
you
normal.
need loads of people to make it work.
Yeah, and there's so many variables because you see, I'm very lucky that I've got a team of volunteers that help us out. And if you were other people, if you were paying people's wages, you've got a massive variable in terms of crash damage. You've got big variables in terms of like testing. There's so many, so you could do it really on the cheap, really on the expensive, paying for expertise or whatever. But just general costs, you're not getting any change out of like $3,000 for a weekend. But that can go up to like sort of, you could easily spend like $5,000-6,000 if you were doing it like with a team and whatever, with like flying people.
Totally.
But the sort of bare minimum, if you can get a weekend of Superstock racing for around the sort of $3,000, I think that's.
That's bottom. Yeah, that.
When you just for example, 6 sets of tyres at the weekend.
Yeah.
I was very
because even lads at the back are still spending the same money as you at the front.
So
in a way,
six sets. So if they're over £300 each, so you can work that out. It's nearly £2,000, and then like £300 on race fuel. Then you've got your brake pads, £250. It all feel to get there. Yeah, things. If you're doing, if you can get a weekend of $3,000, you're doing great.
So what about you? How much would it cost as a privateer to do the TT?
Like a tyre bill at the TT you've mentioned.
Oh God, 6. It's like basically even at the free internationals, you're budgeting yourself at $10,000 a round, and that is bottom price. That's without travel and everything.
Yeah.
And in terms of
fuel and tyres,
people about how people do it. Each person's different, but a lot of it comes from people helping out.
Well, you don't work for a living. Apparently, you're a teacher, so you don't. You just ruin their students' futures. But I think I've hit a nerve there. Sorry, Chrissy. I do apologise.
Not at all.
No. But like you say, it's there's so many different variables. There's no like quick answer for that at all. But. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to chase the dream, haven't you? Chasing the race,
and that wraps that up. So thanks so much for joining us, and
thanks for having us.
Same again, a plug for head over at UK Clubsport on all social media, and if you want to get the monthly magazine, which is great to just drop through the door, and at perfect time, the cameras have just gone off. Drops through your door, and
you can read all about Dom's.
Knackerish.
Excellent. And
words of nonsense.
Although if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't actually be able to see us now. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch up soon.
See you in a bit, guys.
Yeah. Bye.